Check. Okay. This works. Hi, good morning, everybody. I love how the mobile phones are out. Why wouldn't everybody want to take a picture? Treat me like an animal. Okay. Good morning. Hi, my name is Danish, and it's incredible to be at this Unstop event. This is IGNITE. There's another one happening down there. Firstly, give yourselves a round of applause, everybody, please, because you have survived that event. That one is where they're talking about presentations and all. It's damn boring. This one is fun. Okay, so I'm assuming a lot of you over here are students. Am I right? Okay, all MBA students? I have no idea because I finished a graduation barely and then life just happened for me. But I've been told that some of you have been invited by some of these very big colleges, IIM and stuff like that. Is that true? Okay, 2 of you have got a call. What about the others? Whatever, the other, I don't know. What FMS, anybody has been invited to FMS? Nobody. Hari, you said it's the best college and all that? Oh, pass out. Okay, there's none of you otherwise. Where are you guys from? Are you from this city, from elsewhere? What's the deal? Oh, you're from Namaskara. Chennai. Very good. MBA ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀರಾ? Very good. Pune, wow, there are some people from Pune as well, symbiosis? You're the only one from there. How did they get you here? Just out of curiosity, how did you make it and not the others? What is so different about you? Okay, lucky. Lucky is one thing, but also you must be, obviously, I'm assuming smarter than the other people in your class. Are they people who put their hands into plug sockets and all that? Are they're smart, but they're just not as smart as you. So what was it? What did they do? Did they do like a reality show? What was it? I have no idea. How does one MBA student come between other MBA students to an event for MBAs? How does that happen? Okay, all of you registered for IGNITE on the Unstop platform? Okay, and all of you are a part of Unstop itself? Okay, that's lovely, fantastic. So today what we have happening over here is I have a bunch of these abbreviations that I need to run through because I have no idea. So there is people who are from renowned companies. Who is here from the companies? First row people. What renowned company are you from? Just generally asking. Where are you from, ma'am? AB InBev. Okay, great. So alcohol is sorted. Fantastic. How about you, sir? Reliance Industries is very important. They own the entire country. What about you, ma'am? Amazon.com. So you're looking for the MBA people. Parcel they won't deliver. But that's for you to do. Great. Amazon is also here. Very good. What about you, sir? Oh, you're hosting the panel. Oh, great. Lovely. Okay. So you can also meet one of them, like me. We're all unemployed, basically, you and I. Great. What about you, ma'am? L'Oreal. Okay. L'Oreal. Anybody interested in L'Oreal? How many of you want to join L'Oreal? 2 of you. Guys, at least show fake excitement, no? You're supposed to show. They're looking at you all. 2 people have put their hand up. Where are those 2 people who want to join L'Oreal? Where are you? Just put your hands up. Okay, great. 3 people want to join. We'll just find out why. Because only 2 of them put their hand up. Clearly, you can see they're clamoring and tearing each other's hair to get into your company, but that's okay. Lovely. Why do you want to join L'Oreal, brother?
So it is one of the companies that has made an impact for the future, and the way they are producing the beauty products is totally different, and one of the most...
One second. Stand up, no? Why you're saying too many things? Yeah. Okay. Let's now all pay attention. You didn't put your hand up, no, for L'Oreal. I saw. You didn't. So which company do you want? Alcohol company you want to join? You want to join Reliance? Okay. So, Reliance, sir? This boy is very interested. Okay, so you tell us why you want to join L'Oreal. Ma'am, you sit down, ma'am. Your employer, you should sit down. You should lie down and watch this. Tell.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, everyone here. I am from SIBM. So, L'Oreal being a company that is making an impact for the planet as well, and one of the company we look forward to working as a marketing enthusiast, because every near we go in DMart or any star market, we see the shelves are flooded with L'Oreal Paris product. So we can see that the supply chain they are having, the marketing they are creating, it is totally different. So working in such a company with such an environment would create an impact for me and as well the people around me.
You're supposed to clap after an answer like that. Good. Very good. Very nicely put, yeah. What a young man, smart, bright man. Which company do you want to join, brother? Which company you want to join? Reliance. Okay, sir. आज तो walk around signing autographs today. Huh? I'll join, ma'am. I'll come. Okay, good. Which company are you from, ma'am? Asian Paints. Anybody Asian Paints? Great participation. Don't turn at the back. Huh? All of them put their hand up. How about you, ma'am? Oh, AB and Bev. Great, lovely. Okay, so listen, the point is all these people are here, and there are some more abbreviations here. Place comers. I have no. What is a place comer? Place commer. Huh? Oh, placement committee. Are they, anybody here from placement committee? One guy. Do we? Okay, three of you. Okay, doesn't matter. Then there's PPI. What is PPI? Pre-placement interview. We're going to be doing all this here, is it? They're going to learn how to do all this. Okay, PPI. You guys know what PPI is? Very good. Do you know what PPO is? Okay, so apparently those people are all here. Then I'm supposed to do a bunch of jokes, which I don't have. This is very real. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, clearly you see the chairs are here, and we're going to have a very, well-educated panel who's going to come and talk to us. But before we do that, we'd like to show you a video of the Unstop journey so far, and how we've, reached here, and how all of us have met at this hotel. There is a journey. Are you guys excited to see the video? Hey, you don't have a choice. We will show it to you. Okay, this is the show we're running right now. So everybody say yes together and more excitement. Are you guys excited to see the video? Yes. Fantastic. Okay, let's cue the video in, and we'll speak more after that. Yeah, good. You just clap. Anytime we show you something, just clap. That's all. So this video is more about what is going to happen today, not the journey that we've taken so far. So if I have misled you, my apologies. Okay, but it's about what's going to happen today. But for now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to invite on stage our panel. And just to understand what this panel is about, I'm going to now read English, which does not make sense to me, but will make sense to you. Navigating the fast-paced world of FMCGs and FMCDs for a successful sales and marketing career. Okay, in conversation with Asian Paints, L'Oreal, and AB InBev, we have some fantastic people here from both these industries, and they're going to be discussing things like, have you ever thought about what a sales and marketing career entails? Have you ever thought about it? Correct. Our youth is very deep. They're thinking about these things. Correct. What are the challenges of sales and marketing professionals? Have you ever thought about this? Don't lie. You have? Yes. Okay. When did you think about this? You know something, but have you thought, Arey, what are the challenges? Oh, you've done it? So you know what the challenges are? Little bit challenges, very good. What kind of career growth opportunities do sales and marketing professionals get? Have you thought about that? What is the salary that I will make? Have you thought about that? That everybody has thought about. But that is not a part of this. They're not going to be discussing that. They're going to discuss everything else. So let me invite on stage, and I want to just sit down and do this because these are very long introductions. Our panel, the first panelist I'm going to be inviting on stage, and you've got to clap for her, otherwise she doesn't like it. Shruti Joshi, Senior Manager, Talent Acquisition and Branding, Asian Paints. Ma'am, please come. As you know, the students are deeply excited to join Asian Paints. Please, ma'am, that's your seat. I'm going to... She started her career in ER and IR.
Yes.
in a manufacturing setup and then moved to talent management and organization development.
Yes. True so far.
Shruti is passionate about coaching.
Yes.
She loves playing volleyball. No, I made that up. No. So, about coaching and helping people uncover their innate potential.
Yes.
In her free time, she enjoys reading at her home.
Yes. Absolutely do.
Okay, great. Round of applause, everybody, please. This is 100% true. Next panelist is Anandita Rao, Senior Manager, Marketing, Garnier India. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome. Welcome. As you clearly, people want to join your team. That boy there is saying a lot of things. He gave like an entire paragraph. Now we'll read things about you now. Anandita's love for brands prompted her to pursue an MBA from SP Jain.
Yes.
She joined L'Oreal as a management trainee. Oh, wow. See, this is the journey that you need to hear about, right? She joined from there and now she's here speaking. Commendable, ma'am. Round of applause, everybody, please. Management trainee in 2016 and started her FMCG journey with a sales role in Kolkata.
Yes.
Since then, she has worked on categories that are integral to L'Oreal, such as female skin, hair care, and hair color.
Yes.
All of these. Lovely. Today, she leads the growth of Maybelline on all e-commerce platforms. Great to have you all here. That's a part of the script. I have no idea why that's written, but ma'am, welcome. Round of applause, please, everybody. Fantastic. Next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, Shiba Bhutani, Associate Director. Welcome. Please. Shiba describes herself as a brand builder, hustler, and innovator. Do you?
I do.
So, a very strange description of yourself. No, ma'am, with the mic, ma'am.
They picked it off my LinkedIn.
Oh, this picked off LinkedIn, okay. She has worked across a spectrum of categories from cheese to protein supplements to creams to beer, which has allowed her to view customers through different lenses.
It has, yes.
Yes? Oh, great. As a consumer-obsessed marketer, Shiba has spent the past 8 years delivering products and campaigns that solve a multitude of consumer problems.
Yes, that is all true.
Okay, so you know how they launch music CDs and cassettes and all alcohol companies sell? That is what she makes. Music CDs and cassettes, because you can't sell alcohol in this country openly. Great. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Welcome. Next up is Unstop's very own Alekhya Chakravarti. Are you doing this? I didn't know. You came walking with me. Okay, his role at Unstop is fantastic. He brought me from the ground floor to the first floor. So he really knows how to lead career in the right direction. Please, sir, come. So he's also a serious guy, okay? He looks very young, but he's been working for the last 25 years. He has 13 plus years of experience in building brands that have become a household name in India. Clap, no, that's very big. Huh? From Nestle. What is A+? Nestle A+ is the thing, is it? Of course, I know we discussed it at home all the time. Nestle A+, Dove, Boro Plus, and Vivil. Alekhya has expertise in brand strategy, digital marketing, P&L management, new product development, and consumer insights. Yeah, clap that. So now what's going to happen is the four of them are going to start discussing things, correct? Panel starts now. Oh, I need to give the mic. Okay. Panel discussion, everybody. Please enjoy.
Thank you, Danish. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here. A big round of applause for the three wonderful ladies here. I really like the gender balance here on stage. Yeah, and yeah. I mean, currently I head marketing and growth at Unstop, but I have sold milk and soaps all my life. Tried to make women more beautiful. And later on, I wanted to make people feel a little more healthy, right, and nutritious, right? So really feel like at home with the businesses that you guys come from. So yes, this is a topic which is very close to my heart as well. I'm sure many of you want to be a part of this category and the different wonderful brands that are there in the category, and we'll talk about it for the next 30 odd minutes, right? First up, starting with you, Anandita. So just a question, and is it worth it? And I hope you like the pun that we came out with, right? So how is a career in sales and marketing in FMCG sort of different from other categories, right? And other career options that all of them sitting here will probably explore. What's your view?
So to answer your first question, it's absolutely worth it. I think L'Oreal, it's been a great journey for me. Personally, so FMCG, it's so exciting because, brands are such an intrinsic part of our life, right? You wake up in the morning deciding what soap, what face wash to use. From then on, all the way, throughout your day, brands are playing a really cool, important role in your life. So that's interesting because you get to see real-time impact of what you're doing. You're able to really influence consumers in a way, you're able to influence their decisions, their buying behavior. That's exciting. Also, FMCG is one of the few industries which allows you to do a people management role very early on, right? As a sales manager, you're leading a team, you're the king of that region, you're the decision maker, and also gives you the chance to really work on some legacy brands. You're part of the brand story, the growth story of brands that you've grown up with. So all of this, sort of is extremely exciting to me, and I feel it's extremely different from other industries like, let's say, a consulting or something else. So FMCG is dynamic, cool, and here to stay. It's not even, just a flash in the pan. It's something that will sustain. So that's
Wonderful. And I just want a little double click, and I hope you're okay with it, right? The bit that you mentioned about feeling like a king of the territory, right? So that's something that, trust me, all four of us here can identify with, right? The ownership of the P&L, right, that we have. And I have been in other companies and categories wherein, much like mine, now where the P&L ownership rests with another function, let's say a business or someone, right? It's very different in case of marketing. So maybe Anandita, if you can do a little bit more or double click on that. Why do we feel at FMCG that we are the kings of the businesses, and that's the ownership that we feel every day?
So honestly, it's because the budget rests with us, right? We take decisions on how to spend money, how to spend media money, what activations to run, what products to launch, how to speak to consumers in a different way. So we are responsible for how the brand is represented and what the consumer sees of the brand. We take all these decisions, we're the king of it, and we own the P&L. So I think that's a very strong sense of, you get a strong sense of power in sort of working on it because you're the client, right? You have agencies coming working for you. I think that's about it. So makes you feel like you're owning something and leading it on your own.
Any reflections on what from the two of you before I come to you for your questions?
No, I completely agree. I think the role within sales and marketing is it's called brand manager or it's called sales leader, but you're actually the owner of it, right? I own the brand, I'm the parent of the brand. And hence, I look at it from the entire fulcrum of, or the entire 360 of everything that goes into it, from the raw material that gets into the beer to the end output, to how she said, on how the consumer is engaging with the brand. I'm the owner of everything that transpires between the brand and the consumer. So and while that comes with a great sense of ownership, it comes with a great level of responsibility. We could almost call ourselves Spider-Man here. I had to plug that in. But I think it's only within this function where you're allowed to see such a large perspective, which is, I love it. It truly sort of makes me wake up every day and say, I need to get to work and really do something that's going to engage with my consumer. Yeah.
So since I come from talent acquisition, I'll probably look at this from a slightly different lens, that precisely because what these two ladies here are saying is so difficult, it is difficult to emulate, it is difficult to build, because it starts getting into the space of who you are, not just what an MBA degree teaches you. And that makes it an interesting observation. There is not everyone who graduates out of the same college will end up becoming a similar level of a P&L leader, or will be able to create a similar level of delta in the businesses that you lead. And from a talent perspective, that's also very, very interesting, that while we all know what FMCG and FMCD sales and marketing career looks like, what it takes to build that is something you need to be cognizant of, or else you've had waves of learning, but you didn't know that you were riding them. So.
Beautifully put. And I think I just latched on to something that both of you mentioned about the orchestration, like it's the day-to-day orchestration, and that is something I learned from one of my bosses who sort of I still look up to from the FMCG world, that you are not a brand manager. You're largely a business manager in this world, right? And that comes from that ownership of the P&L. And the moment you're a business manager, what it translates into in your day-to-day job as your role is that orchestration that you do with the agencies which you mentioned, like that plethora of agencies, and also the internal cross functions. Like everyone sort of has a dotted line connection or reporting to you, which I'm sure you also have a perspective as a HR TA person, right? So beautiful. So and guys, like keep jotting the questions mentally. We'll of course come at the end of the panel to you if you have some reflections and questions. Okay, Shiva, next coming to you. So what are some of the challenges that early professionals face in their career in sales and marketing? And maybe some of your own personal experiences going back. And what are some of the things that students can do in B school in the journey that lies ahead for them to overcome those challenges, right? And yeah, I really want to know some anecdotes from your own experience.
So I think the first thing, and it's very interesting on how we play it in ABI, is it's not, when we say sales and marketing, while we say it in the same breath, we tend to think they're two different things. But the minute or the moment you change that perspective and you look at it as a more commercial organization, that's what we are called at ABI. We're the commercial organization. So you change your mindset saying, hey, I'm just doing marketing or I'm just doing sales. So when you're sitting in an elective, and we spoke about P&L, now when you're sitting in a finance elective, you're almost starting to think, hey, how can this play a role when I'm sitting and managing budgets? Or hey, how can this marketing communication that I do in this marketing course start to play a role when, you know, that salesman has to go and talk to the customer? You start to have a more rounded perspective the minute you stop breaking the two apart. Marketing is no longer just about the glamour of, or it's almost glorified by an advertisement, but it's not. And 5 minutes into this conversation, we spoke about marketers talking about P&L. We spend as much time actually getting into the numbers, to actually understanding what the consumer is saying and how does this need to work for the customer, right? I did a role while I was still selling cheese. I used to, that time my role, and maybe that's what really changed for me, my role was called business development. So I thought I had to do both sales and marketing, which is then when I actually, while to get to my consumer, realized that the pain point was that, you know, the consumer is unable to taste the product or sample the product. So I was able to build a complete rounded mech within the outlet where I drove the sampling. I actually stood there and sampled myself to actually speak to the consumer, understand from the consumer, and then actually build a script, put up the entire set of promoters, etc., and then, you know, script it out with agencies, do all of those things. But that actually is what translated into sales, right? We sometimes think that, hey, this is someone else's job, this is not my job. But the minute you kind of bring it together, it makes a lot more sense. Like in ABI, you can't even just go into one role without actually going through the entire process. Like we have a GMT stint or an SVP stint that puts you through multiple different roles, like I'm sure you did in your MT stint as well, right? That gives you larger business perspective and not just, hey, you can do marketing or hey, you can do sales. It's no flash in the pan, guys.
No, beautiful. And you know, you could sense that both of us were sort of nodding heads because we were connecting immediately with some anecdotes from our own lives. And I think the great point that you mentioned here was it's not just about marketing communication, right? So that we build the typical 4 Ps. Some of you would have heard of 4 Ps, 6 Ps. Promotion is just 1 P, right? There's a pricing, packaging, promotion, placement, right? And in FMCG, I think placement probably over the years, I realized probably is the biggest and most important P. And all of us probably got attracted towards this category because of communication. We all wanted to make ads. I mean, har ghar kuch kehta hai and everything, right? So, but then, you know, eventually when you get into it, then you realize that you have to, again, put all the overall package together, right? Any reflections from you, any initial challenge?
Something that she mentioned, right? And we were also talking about how we are the owner of the brand. So everything is our job. Everything to do with the brand, figuring out stock, supply chain, marketing, whether sourcing raw material, like she mentioned, then communication. She's gone into the store and sold, so sampling the last mile to the consumer. Everything is part of our job, where it's our baby. You're taking care of it. Anything and everything to do with that baby is to do with us. It's someone else's baby, absolutely.
And I think the other bit that you mentioned about sales and marketing working together, and again, one more FMCG boss who gave me an analogy that the overall team is like a football squad, right? Sales team is typically the striker or the forward. They will be celebrated because they score the goals, which is essentially the sales. But we are the like midfielders, right? So we have to give that all-important pass. I'm sorry if you don't get the footballing analogy, but this is exactly how it works. The sales team can't sell the entire package by distributing it better unless the marketing team sort of makes the overall proposition ready for them, right? So and both of them have to go hand in hand. They give you the insights, right?
Absolutely. It's teamwork defined, right? Like the minute we start to look at it from that lens, and which is why very important. And maybe if someone probably told me this before I walked into my first classroom, I probably paid a little more attention in the sales elective and said, hey, this is what his 8 minutes of selling in an outlet needs to be. So now as a marketer, I'd probably break that 8 minute down and help him or her to sort of structure that conversation with the customer far better. But if I don't understand that, or even if I don't think of that to be important, then I can never be a good marketer, or I can never be a good salesperson if I don't understand why this marketer has spent 3 months putting a full stop on this poster. It's true, but we need to kind of understand to only then be able to appreciate what actually goes into both of these functional roles, which we say are only broken down for organizational management. Yeah, but
That typical sales team line, right? Color change kar diya, bas kya brand team ne color hi change kar diya. But I think one shameless plug-in from my current brand, like the point you mentioned, Shiva, that we wish someone told us this, right? That's why we have Ignite for all of you. We didn't have it. Like when I did my MBA, when 15 years back, I was where you are now, trying to get into my B school, and I don't know, all I knew that I was going to make ads. But yeah, all of this, we didn't have a platform like this. Great. Shruti, coming to you, and I really like the mix here because you can give us the perspective from the other end, right? So from the hiring perspective, Shruti, when you're hiring for sales and marketing roles that we're talking about, what specific competencies do you look for in potential candidates, right? And how can these competencies be developed by them in B schools? What's your view?
Sure. So first of all, like speaking about my brand, which is Asian Paints. So we've been going to campuses for about 5 decades now, over 5 decades now. So what I'm speaking about comes from all of that organizational memory that has gotten passed on with every senior sales and marketing leader that I interact with, that I'm engaging with to get those interviews in. And what I hear very, very often is typically there's not too much to differentiate one good candidate in a campus to another next best good candidate in that campus, because honestly at a certain level you all know you've cracked some of the most difficult exams and you've sort of got there, and your the differentiation sort of reduces. So my point of inquiry then is, what is a delta? If all of you in a certain campus come with certain bare basics, like you know how to look at data, you know how to work in group projects, you know how to hold positions of responsibility a certain way, then what would be that delta that separates you? And the one answer that I hear from all senior leaders and from all of my batchmates and from all of the juniors who we've now recruited in is about how do we engage and interact with humans, right? So as a sales and marketing professional, if you talk about, say, Asian Paints, you're talking to a painter or a contractor or a dealer or some other extremely sophisticated marketeer for a different brand that you're collaborating with, to a consumer, all in the same breath. So for you, how do you engage with people across different kinds of strata, different points of view, different business interests becomes of key importance. And how do you, and all of these conversations are not one way. What makes them more difficult is the more insights you can get from the other side, the more the conversation is welcoming and comforting for the other person to share the real thought, the more as a marketer or as a sales professional, you will be able to add value to your business. So ability to work with humans, different strata, different kinds, different point of views, different what's in it for me is going to be absolutely critical. And I'll take a shot at how can you build this, and of course the two of you can add and you can add as well. I think one of the best ways of building this particular competence is to expose yourself to as much perspective and different kinds of work areas that you can. So, in the same breath that you're trying to sit for a PlaceComm, try and volunteer in an NGO, try and work with groups of not just the closest 3 friends that you have, but maybe somebody who you're not quite liking or not quite aligning value-wise just yet. So speak with as many people, work with as many people, because that is what the reality for you is going to be. There is really no escaping that. The other bit that I've seen, and which draws from the PNL conversation that we were having, very early on in FMCG, FMCD careers, you have full PNL responsibilities. There is a smaller brand or a category that you are completely responsible for. Now, the ability to know what problem am I solving for or what opportunity do I tap in is going to be critical. And for that, data and qualitative insights put together and your own personal conviction, what am I standing for? What is my voice in this entire scheme of things, is going to be of absolute necessity. So the more you can build finesse, you can iterate, you will fall, you will learn, that's a given. Nobody gets it right in the first go. But the more iterations you can build in earlier in your career, the easier it is going to be going forward. And in a B school, the way to do this is, maybe one of the ways to do this is case competitions. Other very simple ways would just be to raise your hand and ask questions, or to raise your hand and hazard a wrong answer in front of a super intimidating professor. But you have to be there, you have to be in the arena, you have to play in it. And that's the only way you sort of come out. And the last bit from me, and the one thing that I see is, all of this fails if you're not aware of who you are as a person, what ticks you off, what works for you, what your strengths are. So as much reflection as you can. It can be simple daily reflection to say that, okay, I was in this meeting and I felt my BP going up. I really felt like throwing the bottle of water across the room. Just coming back and thinking what was happening to me. And in the same time, when somebody comes and say somebody from your team or your peer walks off and says that, hey, Shruti, you did that really well. And you say, okay, that went off well. So knowing that, and knowing that as early on as you can, because it never ends. I'll be lying if any of us say that we've got it all together. But the earlier you can do this, the better. But I do want to hear from the two of you, all the three of you on this as well.
So just to sort of add to what you said, you mentioned finesse, right? So at L'Oreal in particular, having a sense of aesthetics, having a feel for beauty is extremely important. So even as management trainees, it was inculcated in us saying, look at a creative from a certain lens, look at certain things, how is it making you feel? Is it beauty? Is it really, speaking to the consumer in a certain way? Those are also things to develop. And I think your MBA journey is the right time to start working on these things as well. Follow brands, follow influencers, track trends. You should know what the latest makeup trends are, what the latest beauty trends are, fashion trends. All of this will help you develop a visual IQ and also a sense for beauty and personal care. And then that also allows you to become a better marketer, because you're keeping the consumer at the heart of it all the time. You're obsessed with the consumer. And that's something that even today, we're still learning and constantly, trying to incorporate in the way that we plan for brands.
She was talking to you who wanted to join L'Oreal. Yeah? So that's. Yes, Shiva, what?
No, but I couldn't agree more. But just to what you said, at this stage, and I'll sound like a marketer here when I do this, but there's 2 C's that you need to kind of, 2 C's and P's. But these, I think, are fundamental for you to sort of grow within your career. One, with your comfort zone, leave it. Go so far away from it that anything that's coming new almost stops to make you uncomfortable. That today makes you uncomfortable, and another 5 months is you have it under your bag and you're just like, bring on the next challenge. That should almost be your attitude. To what she said on, don't work with the people you like. Work with people who you don't understand, don't know. Work for organizations or case studies that really, really, really challenge you, that break you down almost as a person, but know this, that once this is done, you'll come out better, or you'll be a better professional, a better student, whatever it is that you choose to do. The second C that I spoke of is criticism. Ask for it, actively seek it, and see how that can change you. It's always great to take positive feedback, saying, oh, X and Z is a great person, she's so strong, he's so strong at X, Y, Z. But ask for what you're not good at, because that's what will make you good. Because it's good to have two things that you're great at, but why not find out the third thing that you're not great at and figure out a way to fix it and build a plan in terms of how you can get better. How can you add a third strength and a fourth strength and a fifth strength? That for me is just the two C's in terms of, at least I would add on in terms of becoming a better professional at anything. You guys could walk out and after all this P&L conversation want to become finance managers. But yeah, go ahead, do it. Take more finance electives if you want to, but
And I mean, I love how what you mentioned on perspective, Shruti, and then, both of you built on that. Perspective as a word, I didn't know the value of it until I stepped into my B school. I'm a bong, right? I mean, my UG was in an engineering, college in Bengal. So getting into Ghaziabad, I'm from IMT Ghaziabad. Firstly, the culture shock, and seeing in Ghaziabad, the first shop that I saw was,
Ghaziabad a culture
yeah, I'll tell you why. Because just in front of IMT gate, there is a shop called Pratap Ki Banduk Ki Dukan. So in Ghaziabad, gun is a fast-moving consumer good, right? So that itself was a big culture shock for me. And then just the fact that perspective, like Shruti was mentioning, the fact that there can be two right answers to one question, or more than two right answers. Just learning that, and then in my career during the 30-odd years, to see that's also true in so many different ways. That was a big learning for me, right? So I think what you mentioned was fascinating for me to hear. And guys, please make a note of that. I think if you are embarking on your journey, I think that's a great tip which you mentioned.
Yeah, I'll just add on, since you spoke of B school. I was a fresher in my B school. Every day for 2 years, I was called a fresher in every class. They were like, hey, you're a fresher, you don't know. Hey, you're a fresher, you don't know. And I'm like, glad I don't know, because I get to learn from you. And I then became a sponge, and that's something that I have not changed, because that almost became me as a person. Because I walk into meetings sometimes and say, hey, I don't know. Because sometimes I walk in and say, I'm a fresher in this conversation. And that doesn't break me down, because for 2 years, every day, someone called me a fresher. So don't let that bog you down ever. Yeah?
Beautiful.
Perspective.
Honestly, that's an invisibility cloak I would buy, even if that were to come with a lot of money. And what she said, what both of you said, is absolutely critical. You do not get the luxury of asking fresher-like questions very late in your career. So when you have that chance, honestly, you can always ask questions. You always need to have that beginner's mindset. But early in the career, the ecosystem is just a little bit more understanding of the fact that you don't come with that. And what I've seen, on perspectives, what I've seen a lot of people do is to make that mark, they hold on to certain stands very strongly. And while that is good, the ability to hold two opposing thoughts in your mind is truly a mark of a leader. Because if you come to a point of view and you've walked out of the room of a point of view, you're basically saying the room was full of idiots. Right? I mean, there's no shift in your perspective. While that may be true in certain cases, when you have the privilege of, genuinely a very good insight, if you see that happening with you all the time, something is wrong.
If I can just add to what you said, right? When you're a fresher, you just come in. A lot of you will now go on to do internships, maybe a year into your MBA journey. We want people to come and ask new questions. The reason we want interns and management trainees is fresh perspective, right? We've already been looking at the same problems for many, many months, years, etc. So the new, fresh, enthu cutlet questions that you bring is what the team will really appreciate, because you're looking at it differently. You're asking questions that might be very obvious to the other person, but you're asking it in a different manner, and that also makes the team that's been working on it think. So I think that's important as well.
It's brilliant. I mean, I have worked on soaps for like 8 years. It's 99% penetrated a category, right? Everyone uses a soap. So what new can you do while selling a bar of soap, right? The chemistry is the same. right? So just thinking through the proposition and the brand mix, like maybe if not the product, can you change something in the packaging? Like so asking those questions always helped. Cool. So moving on, Shiba. So we've talked about like I think competencies, etc. as well. But now moving to marketing and going a little deeper, you know. So I'm sorry if I bore you now with the three of us. Yeah. So how have you seen the domain of marketing sort of evolve over the years, right? And if you can just give them a perspective of the new age marketing companies which has taught us in the FMCG world quite a bit, right? So anything about the revolution?
I think the biggest change that I've had to see over the last 10 years, and of course, as a child watching advertisements and fascinating by that almost, is now your interaction with consumers is no longer a monologue. It's not about putting out a great ad anymore. Sure, it still remains or rests as a part of it, but unless it's a brand, you can almost open out a dialogue. Say, hi, I'm Budweiser. Would you as a consumer talk to me? This is who I am. What do you like? It's almost to that humanized level, and that multiplied with the speed, because you can speak to your consumer. If she's my consumer, I can talk to her right now because of social media. I can be inside and say, hello, can you want to talk, look at my product, look at my communication, do all of that. But it's the multitude force of how much you need to speak to your consumer and how much you need to let them speak to you that has really, really changed. That entire shift of creative agencies being external have now started to move in-house. Brands across and the new age companies did it, or the startups did it faster. We've learned, we've moved and adapted, where we've gotten in-house community management, social media teams, just doing this at the speed of knots, because the consumer loses interest in 15 seconds of a reel, right? That's how the world has moved. At AB InBev, we now have 40 people sitting inside just doing this across our entire portfolio. And it's from creating a reel to then pushing the media out of it, but it has to happen fast. Because your consumer is not going to hold on anymore to see your soap commercial on TV anymore, because they're probably not even on TV anymore. They're probably watching something on Netflix. So, and in the alco bev, it just it makes it slightly difficult for us, and a little more interesting for us, because on-ground experiences become far more interesting. People now engage in such a more almost inviting manner when you meet them at a music festival, because then they take you back to social media and they tell 500 other more consumers about your brand. So it's how well you do that now, or how much that has changed, is what really, really is exciting.
Beautiful. And Anandita, I wanted to come to you. And I was in one of your competition brands at one point, and we used to look at L'Oreal back in 2013, 14 as someone who was really ahead of the digital curve, right? So you started the journey way before, right? So any learnings just to build on Shiba's point and from experiences here?
Sure, absolutely. I think she mentioned the point about a music festival, right? Now, the way that we engage with consumers has changed dramatically. Earlier, it used to just be put an ad on TV and move on. At best, maybe YouTube. You know, today it's become saying, when she's on an app and selecting a makeup shade or a lipstick shade, how do we create an experience for her where she can try on the lipstick shade before she has to buy it? Which gives her the confidence to say, okay, ye shade mujh pe suit kar raha hai, it's looking good. And therefore then, you know, the chance of her buying it is obviously then higher. So designing, you know, these virtual try-on tools, L'Oreal is sort of ahead in terms of building beauty tech in a big way. We're partnering with multiple agencies across the world to build newer and newer innovative products that will, you know, maybe help people that are physically challenged, or people who can apply their makeup but probably don't have stable hands. We are doing things which are very, very different from what, you know, the rest of the companies are, or anybody else has done before. Very small thing. The lipstick I'm wearing today, it's super innovative. There's nobody else in India or in the world that has this formula. It's a 16-hour long wear shine formula, which is not something that any other lipstick has. Something as basic
that's how
as
brand
that.
plugins are done. Yeah, that's how.
Marketing 101, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's something as small as that all the way to, you know, like the virtual try-on that I mentioned. So There's a lot that's happening. We are learning more and more, with consumers giving us real-time feedback, like she mentioned, right? So we are adapting to that. We are saying, okay, fine, if a 15-second reel is not working, 6 seconds. 6 seconds is not working, I think soon it'll become 2 seconds or even 1 second in which, we have to really engage with this consumer. But it's a very exciting space to be in because we're doing things that no one's ever done before and we're all learning together. So it's great.
And Anandita, you have a question? Yeah, please.
So I know I'm not, probably my word has lesser value right now in this question. But anyways, so, just a few things on data and digital, right? So from an Asian Paints point of view, we've been doing for years now something called Color Next, which is deep color research, the firsts in the country, biggest in the countries, and where you do a lot of market and consumer research to come out and say, what are the trends going to be like? What are the colors people will look at? What are the kind of textures? So we have, say, the color of the year, the wallpaper of the year, etc. And what that does, and this is all data. This is all data, and of course, a lot of qualitative insights as well. And what this does is it helps you as a brand be an influencer. So today, when we engage with I have a screen on which I can simulate how my house looks like. If I put one wardrobe here, this wallpaper on this wall, this lampshade here, or this lighting here, this sanitary where, these bath fittings here. So data and visualization is here to stay. And I think even some of these deep, like our brand is a pretty deep dealer network kind of a brand, and we've pivoted on this honestly fairly long time ago, and it's here to stay.
Shruti, you sure you're from TA and not from marketing? So that was beautiful.
Maybe time for a pivot now.
Yeah. No, but guys, I think one point I want you to just double click into from what three of them shared. There's so much of thought that goes into building and crafting these brand stories, right? Whichever category they belong to, right? So as students, if you are already a student, what I would urge you, and please add on to this, to understand what's the thought behind what you see on social feeds from different brands, or let's say an activity that a brand has done. Try to just take a guess and put a hypothesis as to what the brand team would have thought through to build that piece and mix before you, right? So, and that's something, I was just wondering what can they do to sort of understand this evolving world of marketing better, right? So I think that's one thing. Any other hack that they can put in as they get into the B school?
I think while you follow trends and while you sort of, decode content that's coming out from any brand, look at it from two lenses. Look at it as a consumer. Did it speak to you? What did you think? What is the message that landed? And then look at it from the lens of if you were leading the brand, does it make sense? Does it, does it seem like it has an objective? Is it landing that objective? What is the brand really trying to tell you, etc.? Look at it from both lenses, and even when you go into interviews, when you go into case competitions, etc., look at it from both lenses, because of course, we are all consumers, but if you're able to have a point of view as the brand team, that will make your answer a lot richer as well.
Lovely, yeah. And then just going back to the original question and sharing one anecdote, and you guys can also reflect on it. I talked about my good bosses. So I was thinking, what has the, the 10, 12-year journey has taught me? One not so good boss once told me during an annual operating cycle planning exercise that, what will you do this year? So I said the TVC seems to be working well for the last 6 months. Good share of voice, market share growing, household penetration. So probably we don't need to make a TVC this year. And he said, then what will you do next? What will you represent? मैं क्या दूंगा तेरे को? तू film नहीं बनाएगा. So I used to have a spent target as a brand manager in FMCG in some companies. I can't. And there are a lot of companies I worked for, so you don't know which one, but I'm not naming it. But cut to the world that I belong to now. It's completely ROI focused marketing that we deploy, right? And I sense that's also getting into the FMCG thinking, right? I've been 3 years since I left that world. But like, do you identify with what I shared here? The spend targets to ROI thinking.
No, I think it also comes from this space where the first people to get bored of a TVC is the brand team. It's almost like their compulsive need that oh नया TVC बना लेते हैं. But that stems from because by the time you as a consumer are seeing that ad, the brand team has spent a year into the making or 6 months or whatever that needs to be and has clawed out every inch of that 30-seconder that is now running on IPL somewhere, right? And hence they're the first people to get bored and say like this is done, this is overseen. And the minute you break out of that cycle, say, but has the consumer seen this? Has the consumer registered that message? Is only when you will sort of be able to get out. I have been thankful enough to now, at least at Budweiser, we ran the campaign last year, it was COVID, 200 JRPs. We said this is not even seen barely the light of day. So we're running the same campaign here, and that almost allows you with so many other things to do because the last 5-6 months, we've just spent building new propositions. We've done the biggest music festivals and things like that. It just opens up so much mind space the minute you go away from, hey, let's just make a TVC again this year because that's what will excite the larger organization, probably get you your appraisal. But the minute you break out of that, I think there's so much that's available to do now within the marketing space.
Cool. Anandita, coming to you, the next question. So one of our students, in fact, we asked them a few questions. What do they want to ask you? That what are some of the most important metrics and numbers and KPIs that sort of you have on a day-to-day basis? Go for it.
So traditionally, of course, we look at different data points. So of course, market share is most important. Are we growing ahead of the market? Then you want to look at some consumption measures, which what is the penetration like? What is the consumption of, how much are consumers buying? How often are they buying? Are they buying you with other competitor brands, or are you the only brand that they're buying in the category? And then finally, there are some mind measures. So if I say soap, what is the first brand that comes to your head? And without prompting you, what are the multiple brands that you're saying? So what are our awareness metrics, etc. like? So these are some of the metrics that we've traditionally looked at. Now more and more with, e-commerce becoming a big, big part of our lives, we start tracking online metrics. So on an Amazon, and we have panelists from Amazon today, we track what is our stock in hand at the retailer point, off takes. We're looking at more and more metrics with, partnering with a partner like Amazon to say, okay, this creative I want to run, but can I run something else and test both of them together? A/B testing is happening, so she mentioned saying we made a film and then we put it out and then we're running it for another year. Today, we also have the capability to run parallelly multiple creatives and let the system optimize for you and let the system tell you, this is working better, put more money behind this, as opposed to another one. It's not a shot in the dark anymore. And finally, because influencer marketing is a big, big part of our lives at L'Oreal, beauty, you're selling beauty, you need to speak to the consumer in a certain way. We also look at metrics like share of influence, mentions, engagement rates, etc., which were not there as part of our terminology about 5 to 10 years ago. So that's also now becoming part of our language more and more.
One, I'm curious, and this happened with me a lot, that the day of the month when the market share comes in and hits your inbox, can you just share some experiences when it's a green or a red? What happens?
So firstly, when it comes and you get to know that it comes, and everybody just gets huddled around one laptop. Ki dikha, ye cut dekh, ye dekh, isme dekh, usme dekh. And of course, market share is like a report card that you get every month to say whatever you've done, not just over the last 1 month, but any activity that you would have run, any initiative, any sort of different input, a new launch, etc. Everything will eventually translate into that one number, which tells you where you stand with respect to the other competitors in that category. And it's stressful. If it's green, it's great. If it's red, we all have to do an emergency meeting to figure out what's happening, what's gone wrong. And I think it's the same across industries, across categories for sure.
But I think what I've heard from other friends in other categories and that I think वो खून में बैठ जाता है हमारे FMCG marketers का कि वो 21 तारीख retail आ गया market share, right, and all that. I think that's a discipline that's probably other categories can bring, so get something out of, right? Shruti, coming to you with a question next. What every student is waiting for, what kind of career growth can you sort of expect in sales and marketing, right? So if you can give some perspective there. And again, both of you can share perspective.
So probably one way to look at it is how would it grow for you in, say, 1 to 4 years or 5 to 8 years or that. And there are a couple of variables that I've typically seen it growing in. The first variable, of course, is geography. So with time, the geography that you start, the geography that directly starts coming under your control goes up. So when you're joining in, for example, you're handling P&L for a unit, like literally the power of attorney, even on day one, is in your name. So that is the empowerment that FMCG careers give you even on day one. So you start from that. Then say 4 years later, 3 years later, depending on how, your merit is at that point in time, you can start handling bigger and bigger geographies. You can handle a region, or you can start handling a division, so on and so forth. That is one variable that increases. The other variable on which this change happens can be channel. So for example, for us, we are today present in all kinds of channels. So one, of course, is the traditional dealer or the retailer dealer network. We are not traditionally a distributor-led model. We are a dealer-led model. So one is that channel. We also today have a distributor a network where some of our products are going in. We also have an e-commerce channel. We also have a lot of retailing formats, which is like the beautiful homes stores that I was speaking to you about. We also have a services wing which manages all of this, whether it be decor services or it be painting services end to end. So these channels, also we have an institutional sales, which is B2B. So one way of growth can be in moving between these channels, mix and match, because one thing that's very common, at least I can speak from Asian Paints, is for us sales and marketing and this channel and that channel and this team and that team works, the interoperability is very high. You move in very seamlessly from one to the other. So say if you're spending about 5 years or 10 years, you will probably have done a fair bit of channels, fair bit of larger geography, and a fair bit of brands also that would have come to you. So one is geography, the other is channels. The third, of course, is the brands in themselves. Now some of these are our flagship big brands, like something like a Royale, for example, 3,500 crore kind of a brand, big sub brand. Then there are others as well. So for example, we have seen new acquisitions. There's an architectural lights, something called White Teak, for example. So when you're starting out, depending on how new that brand is, how big that brand is, sometimes you get these roles very early on. So you are essentially heading a category, you're heading a P&L role for an entire sub-brand, so to say. So in all of these directions, your growth can happen. It can happen, and usually for us, it doesn't happen only across one of these variables. You will probably be increasing in geography while doing different channels, services, retailing, institutional sales, retail, so on and so forth. You'll also be doing with brand A versus brand B, etc. So you can grow in all of these spaces, and especially if you have a lot of like in our case, we are diversifying a fair bit. There are lots of sub-brands. Then there's that additional excitement of being able to work on really different kind of problems and really different kinds of opportunities that one can tap on. So you can essentially grow in your career in all of these.
It's wonderful, yeah. The other thing is, I think I wanted to ask, did both of you have a sales stint to start off with? Did you start in FMCG itself? Both of you? Or did you? No.
I did. I actually, funny enough, started my career doing, I was as a fresher, doing corporate sales for NPS for HDFC Life.
Lovely,
To then 9 years later being brand head on Budweiser. I've surely had some amount of sales and marketing happening. But I did, yes, on a more serious note, it was more corporate sales early. With then the cheese roll, it was business development, so it was more HoReCa, modern trade, but hardcore sales primarily. And then I've largely spent my time only in the marketing side of it.
Correct. So hence I wanted to ask you that's typical the myth, right? You can't get into FMCG if you don't start from FMCG. How did you sort of?
I actually, I disagree a little bit, because I don't think there is a singular path to become a great salesperson or a great a marketing person, right? It's always something that works out for you. And I'll give you 2 great examples. And it's quite ironic that these 2 people sit in like the proximity of like 5 feet from me in office. The person who sits to my right is a 22-year-old, fresh out of Hindu College in Delhi. She's now brand manager for Budweiser. never worked a day, but is there just on pure basis of merit. We're an organization who puts punts on people, and she's delivering. It's been 7 months in the job, and just her eye for aesthetic, her ability to get deep into things doesn't matter. Just even if you're willing to go to the market and learn, you don't need to spend 200 days within the field to actually learn what the field is if you have the mindset to understand the problem. And on the left, I actually have our unit president, who's 18 years now in AB InBev, pure-bred marketer, like has done marketing all his life. Did sales as VP for the country for the first time ever, and now for the last 3 years has been leading the organization as a business unit president, right? It just goes to show that you can have whatever journey that you'd want. It's how much you're willing to learn. It doesn't stop you that, oh, because I've done marketing all my life, oh, I can't even do sales. You can actually do sales even 5 years later. Maybe you'll be a better salesperson if you've done marketing for 5 years, which I get to see at a daily level when I speak to our unit president, because his perspective is so different, because he's going marketing in first into the business problem. So I don't think there is one holy grail method that allows for it.
So honestly, when we got out of B school, we were told you have to do sales. Until you do sales, you can't move forward, right? You can't do marketing.
They will also be told the same
I
thing.
think that's probably what you will also be told. But what is interesting, and I know L'Oreal, at least we're doing this now a little differently, to say you do sales at some point because we feel it's important to give an individual exposure to different functions, but you don't need to do sales as your first student. So you might start off with a sales planning role, then you might do e-commerce, then you can do marketing, and then do a full-fledged sales field role. So now the order doesn't really matter anymore. And more at L'Oreal, we're saying, yes, we will take a bet on talent. We will give them, customer-facing roles, which are big business roles where you really need to present the company and represent the company in a certain manner. But like she was mentioning, there are people around. I did sales, marketing, now e-commerce. So that's very traditional. But there are people who started off in planning, then did e-commerce, are now in marketing today. And there are also people who have done marketing and are in sales today. So, the rules are shifting. It's good to do everything. It'll just help.
We have a guy who leads Corona for us, who was in finance for 4 years and is now doing Corona.
Yeah.
And that's, if you're willing to do it, organizations are now far more open to it. It's almost this fear that gets, the first thing starts from ki sales alag hai and marketing alag hai. I think the problem starts there. And then with that fear, you're then told that you can only do it in this, linear path that you do sales and then you do marketing. Because if the minute you do marketing, you never want to come back to sales.
Correct.
Or vice versa, that agar like post marketing they put me in a sales role, then will I ever get to go back and sit in my hub office and work on that creative again? It's almost this fear
Because
that the
I want to feel
system
like
has
the king that
created.
she mentioned in the beginning. Yeah. Sales wale king.
Yeah, the system has created these almost apprehensions for you to approach your career. But I think organizations are far more open to the idea of just allowing people to try, test, learn, fail. Because the minute you give the person that level of freedom, that level of ownership, they will put in double the effort to sort of deliver. Like the finance guy knows that he's from finance, but he's over delivering. And how? Because he can read the numbers like nobody else can.
Yeah.
And now he's just sort of like banking on the rest of us to learn, hey, how do I get the aesthetic right? How do I get the comm right? But if you have that mindset, I think you'll just move. But don't ever think there's an end
Quick
path
comment,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, so I completely agree. It's fairly fluid today, in fact. But statistically, you will probably still see a lot of this sales to marketing to digital or e-commerce kind of a thing happening, because probably the roles are just like that. I mean, you get a lot more roles in sales as compared to brands. So statistically, that is true. But I completely agree to the two of them. It's extremely fluid, because if you look at the blocks of what helps you do well in a role, you can build those blocks irrespective of where you are. You can do any role and try and build. Like I can do talent acquisition and build marketing when I'm doing employer branding, right? There are always elements in your role that you can latch on to pay a little bit more attention to build certain competencies. And especially when you guys are all starting out, there is absolutely no need to think that one is better than the other or one is lesser than the other. Just go with the flow. At least the first 4 or 5 years, I think, just soak it all in, because the resistance is what I see comes in the way. Roles are all good, whether you start from sales or marketing or digital or e-commerce or brands.
Guys, we sell paints, lipstick, cosmetics, soaps, and we can go on and on, right? We can keep talking, but my team is looking at me and staring at me, so we have to cut it off. Or if like it's her product, that product makes us talk more. So, but I'll take maybe 2 questions from the audience if anyone wants to. Yes, please. Yeah. Yeah. Can we get him a mic if it's possible? 2 questions, guys. And just, yeah. Oh, you can, I think, speak. Yeah, we can all hear you. Go for it.
Good morning, everyone. I have a question. I'm about to start my career maybe next year into the MBA. Jack Ma says that if there are 9 rabbits, you should be focusing on one for success. There's another story ki Bill Gates is with 3 persons, and one person went to them and asked what is the main mantra for success. All 3 said focus. I have heard the conversations, and I have realized through my life and by seeing all other people, the persons who are focusing on one thing, they become good at, in a less time, good at, and when people is diverse at lot of things, they are having lot of perspectives at one time, but they took longer time to get success. So I want to have understanding of what the conversation we had and what the leaders are saying. Thank you.
Focus on one thing or diverse. Any of you?
And how you look at it. As a brand manager or a brand custodian, you're focusing on the brand. Everything else that we spoke of is levers that will help you grow the brand. Your focus is that one, right? Your problem statement is the one. For the organization, the problem statement is the top line or the bottom line. The focus is the one. Everything else is just a lever in solving. So while you may be proficient in terms of creative development or say data mining for that matter, so you can focus and build that as your base strength and then work within that domain as your primary function, but not having the understanding of everything that is around it will not let you deliver a better output for that end goal, right? That's essentially for me what we were trying to sort of talk about, that you can be great as a creative marketer, but if you don't understand the PNL, you will not be able to be a great brand owner. It's understanding as opposed to losing perspective or losing focus.
I think we have to call it a wrap. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, please feel free to connect with the panelists if you want. Guys, thank you so much for the chat. I felt a dash of nostalgia, going back to the world. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
I think we can give a bigger round of applause. Hi, in case you're wondering where I've suddenly popped up from, I'm Beverly. I'm going to be co-hosting this today. What an incredible, from invisibility cloaks to 2Cs to football to everything possible. I want to do a quick pop quiz. Who remembers what were the 2Cs that were referred to? Yeah, someone's got their hand up. Yay. Panelist is Sheetal Pujari, TAS Manager. Sheetal, thank you so much. And big round of applause for Sheetal. Compensation, payroll, and recruitment, Tata Electronics Private Limited. Sheetal Pujari holds an MA in Human Resource Management and Labor Relations from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences and a BE in Electrical and Electronics Engineering from RV College of Engineering. She started her career as a business analyst at Deloitte and later worked at Tata Administration Services, where she now manages compensation, payroll, and recruitment for Tata Consumer Products, Tata Click, and Tata Electric. I'm sure a lot of you thought she was probably... So we're looking forward to your very, very fresh take. Thank you so much for being here. And the session will be moderated by someone who needs very little introduction to most of you, Ravi Handa. Ravi Handa is the host of Desi, come on, a big round of applause, of Desi Fire podcast, where he talks about early retirement. Earlier, he founded Handa Ka Funda, which was acquired by Unacademy. He's an avid quizzer and writes a quizzing column at Money Control. He's written the best-selling quiz book, Biz World. Ravi, over to you. Have a great discussion.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So, the first instruction that I got from the Unstop team, which I would like to pass on to you, is that Alakya has overshot his time. So we will need to keep a tab on how long we take. I don't have that many questions, so that shouldn't be a problem. So we'll start with something very, very basic. Let's say to you, Avanti, what sort of management trainee programs are there at Amazon? Basically, okay, so let's say if some kid wants to get into, what should he expect?
Great. At Amazon, we've learned a lot from our FMCG partners, and we've seen very successful leadership programs and emulated some of them. I'll talk about two of them. There's one called AFBP. Amazon is all about acronyms. AFBP is Amazon Future Builders Program. And here we hire from Premier B schools, and we take the MBA talent through a 30-month stint. It starts off with the incubator where they learn more about Amazon, culture, philosophy, our many, many lines of businesses, how we operate on an everyday basis, and then go very deep into each of our businesses. They get a chance to interact with our customers, work out of FCs, attend customer calls, talk to sellers, etc. So very hands-on experience. Once the incubator ends, we have 2 rotation stints. So invariably, a candidate that gets hired can see 2 teams and 2 roles. They get support in terms of buddy, mentor, a manager. They get stretch assignments, and they grow along the journey. The intent is simple. We see all of you as future leaders at Amazon, and our intent is to hire you, give you those big, great opportunities, and see you as future leaders. So that's one, which is the AFBP program. And the other is a more global program called Pathways, and this is really for operations leadership. And we are a huge operations network within Amazon. So we look at also hiring top talent from B schools globally and taking them through an operations leadership program, which is multiple years, multiple levels, but rotates you across fulfillment centers, delivery centers, and all of our last mile operations, with the intent to have operations leaders that can move different countries, different roles and regions. So these 2 are currently big programs that we have, for fresh out of B school hires.
But let's say if I was a math teacher earlier, so if I'm hiring someone for a math teacher, I can give him a few math problems, solve it if you can, and you could hire the guy. But typically, when you're interviewing and when you're hiring candidates, how do you actually judge in an interview? Okay, you go to a B school, look at their profiles and resumes. How do you actually judge that, okay, this kid is good for a leadership role and the other guy is not? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to a business school, they're broadly more or less at the same level. You're not going to hire everyone. Maybe 10, 20% of the people who actually come for the interview. So how do you decide that?
Completely agree. In most of these campuses, it's creme de la creme, like just the best of the best. And unfortunately, it's not like we have unlimited roles that we can hire for. But Amazon does hiring really well. I mean, it's almost like the science that started and now is an art. Typically, when organizations sort of hire from B schools, they're looking at some foundational, functional competence, just understanding of basic concepts around sales or marketing or HR, finance, wherever you're starting off. But beyond that, I think every organization assesses also some sort of soft skill. It could be just influencing, communicating, both verbal and written, potentially strategic thinking, technical bent of mind, etc., etc. From an Amazon perspective, there are 2-3 things that I think are super critical, and we largely hire basis leadership principles. Are you aware of Amazon's leadership principles? If not, I would definitely.
I am not. So
Okay.
please.
So if not, I would definitely encourage you to read about them. These are really almost tenets that we work with. Our entire journey in Amazon is around these leadership principles. The way we hire, the way we grow talent, the way we retain talent, the way we make business decisions is also based on leadership principles. And I'll talk about 2-3 that are important from somebody just starting out their career or potentially looking at a first job after a B school. The first is ownership. I think that's key, that differentiates one candidate from the other. And we call it the owner's mentality, where we really want to find out folks that are able to go over and beyond, not just say, this is my role, I'm a program manager, or I'm a product manager, but really go back and see, what does the customer want? How am I solving for the customer? And then do what it takes. So I think it's ownership that we really want to assess an individual for. We look at their examples, the journeys they've had, and their ability to go over and beyond, and not say, this is not my job. So I think that's primary. The second is, and we spoke about this in the previous panel, just the ability to be curious, lifelong learner. And that's crucial. I think learn and be curious is one leadership principle that holds you in good stead across your journey. Just the ability to say, I don't know enough. I'm willing to research, learn, unlearn, spend time, benchmark, talk to other individuals, and then come up with what is required for me to do. Again, working backward from the customer. So I think the second thing that we would look at is your ability to just navigate a completely ambiguous situation and come prepared with some work at your end. And the third piece, I think, is just the ability to deep dive. I think understanding numbers, comfort with numbers, analyzing numbers, and then the most important piece is how do you weave a story that a leader can make a decision on. So I think these are 3 things that you could cultivate and focus on: ownership, ability to learn and be curious, and just data orientation. And honestly, these are transferable, isn't it? I mean, whether you're doing different roles at Amazon or you're doing different roles in different companies, I don't know any company who would say, I don't want an owner, I don't want somebody who is wanting to learn more or just likes to be superficial. So I think these are transferable, foundational skills that all of us can keep at the back of our mind. And a parting thought for somebody on this question to begin with is just ability to take feedback. We always, want to hear the mistakes you made and how okay are you to talk about them? Are you, completely vocally self-critical in saying, you know what, I messed up. These are the reasons why. This is what I learned. This is what I'm going to share ahead. So I think just to top it all, ability to be vocally self-critical and take some feedback.
Sure, that's interesting, and hopefully it helps some of you when you're planning to apply for Amazon, go through the leadership principles. I'm sure that will be showing initiative and that will help. So moving from Amazon to Flipkart, as I always do while shopping to check prices. So Sumit, you work in leadership hiring as well, along with, with universities, you have tie-ups with them.
Right.
So one, broadly, what are you looking when you are hiring? And, how can these kids develop those competencies? And what are some obvious mistakes that these guys make, which you will tell them, okay, boss, do not do that in the interview, and so that you can, get by.
So I manage 2 COEs. Is the voice audible? Yeah. So I manage two COEs in Flipkart. One is obviously the university relations, and I manage at a group level. For example, managing for Flipkart, curated, Flipkart Health, and then also managing the entire leadership hiring across Flipkart, across group companies, right? So I hire a lot of leadership and general management roles across VPs and SVPs and CXO levels, including Walmart, right? I think, see, leadership and management roles are very, very responsible roles. And when you're operating at that level, obviously you need to be responsible. And there are specific competencies. I say power of five, right? The first one is your mental agility and a problem solving approach, right? And when I say mental agility, it is breakdown to two parts. One is your thinking, a strategic part, and the second is your enterprising capabilities, right? So how you can actually, break down the proper strategy into roadmaps, right? That is very, very important. Now, the second part is your embracing change, right? As a leader, I think it is very important to embrace change, your appetite for experimentation, taking risk, right? And as a leader, whether you yourself is a positive change agent or not, and how you can apparently cascade it down to the larger ecosystem in the organization, right? So that's the second part, very, very important, embracing change. Third is basically your result part, which essentially means all your accountability, execution skills, partnership, etc. Right? Now, in any company, only 5 to 10% is strategy, and remaining 95% is execution. Right? So you have to be really, really strong in execution and implementing things. Right? Fourth is your people leadership. We call as a people agility as well. Now, in any company as a leader, I think you need to manage a pretty large span of control. You need to manage their priorities, their expectations, right? So how will you drive, complex people charters? How will you, retain top talent? How will you work with people and enable their performance, right? So these are very, very important facet of any leader. And the fifth, I would say, is decision making, right? Because as a leader, I think you have to make decision very fast in such a competitive and leading environment. You have to be very fast in making decisions. So these are top five. In terms of common mistakes, I would say three. Be very natural in interviews. Don't show up which you are not, right? I mean, I've seen people just showing up which they apparently are not, their personality, right? Second is don't jump to the solutions, right? Try to assimilate and consume the problem statement or the question from the interviewer panel, and then think deeply and then answer. And the third is start saying no. If you don't know any answer, say no, I don't know. But I think as a company, because I have taken a lot of interviews, as a employer, I think what we are looking for is someone who has a great learning agility. For example, if you don't know the answer right now, but whether you have the capability of finding that answer, right? So that's a learning agility. So that is something which is very, very important, yeah.
Fair enough. So moving to you, Sheetal. So you are someone who got into a task which is, for those of you who do not know, that's the IAS version inside the Tatas, so to say. So basically, can you tell us a little bit about what are some of the things that you did which got you there? And, as MBA graduates, again, what is something that these guys can do or avoid doing to get into these sort of positions?
Okay, so I'll take a quick poll. How many of you have already applied to colleges this year? Great. So when I applied to TIS, Tata Institute of Social Science, and I was not authentic. So I went through a lot of blogs and I got a lot of ideas on what is the best pitch to give. How do I introduce myself? So I went ahead and introduced to a panel of 3 very senior professors. I went and said, my name is Sheetal, and I was born on the day that India rolled out LPG reforms. And everyone laughed at me. And then they just brought me back to reality and said, Sheetal, just tell us who you are, and we will take care of the rest. So that is something that is very, very, very crucial. We get a lot of advice, but you have to pick and choose which advice you take, especially when you're applying to such premier management roles. Like Avanti rightly said, every company is looking for something unique. Every company has its leadership principle. Every company comes from a different history. So read up about it. That's the first step. Secondly, it's a lot of introspection. Like after that interview, and I'm really fortunate that TIS selected me even after that debacle, because then I became very genuine. Be genuine in your applications. For example, TAS application is very, very detailed, and it takes a lot of efforts to fill it. And when summer placements come, that's how I got into TAS. We have multiple companies coming in, you have projects, you have a lot of advice. So, but the important thing is you write your answers and you defend it. And that can only happen when you know whatever you're writing is truly you. So for example, TAS application, not only I was interviewed during the selection process, but even after the end of my project work, the same application was brought out and they questioned me on what I had written. So in 2 months, I had completely forgotten what I had written, but somehow I was able to defend because I knew I had spent enough time in that. Also, one more thing about genuineness is when we face these panels, they are extremely experienced. They have seen hundreds of us, and we have to bow down to their knowledge and wisdom. So you cannot weasel your way out of it. So like you rightly said, if you don't know, you don't know. And we are all humans, it's fine. There is something on labor laws that I still don't know, and I'm okay with it. Even though I'm working in manufacturing, I will learn. So that's it. You can take education, you can take good guesses, but it's part of learning, and everyone realizes that. And another part, I'll still focus on authentic. So I'll tell you how different interview was for every one of us. My interview revolved around Harry Potter and how we can learn from business principles from Harry Potter. Someone's was on Roger Federer, and someone was on Sachin Tendulkar, and someone just spoke about swimming for 1 hour in our TAS interview. So it's
so that was because in your application you had mentioned Harry Potter, and that's when. Do you remember the question for which you had put in Harry Potter, and how does that even get into the conversation?
I think so. I think that is what that's the reason why panel selected me, because after that they closed my interview. I thought I was rejected, but they fortunately selected me. So there was something about conflict and how do you resolve conflict, and somewhere in my application I written I like reading Harry Potter books. I read Harry Potter books once every 6 months, all 7 books. So then they're like, okay, then apply this in management, like whatever you've experienced. So I said, okay, so for example, there is a famous quote in Harry Potter, right? Like, it's very hard to stand up to your enemies, but it's harder to stand up to your friends. And at that time, we had taken part in many of case competitions. So I said that really helped me solve conflicts during case competition, because of course we got into conflicts. And they said, no, it's easy during case competition, right? It's so easy to work with friends, you can brush it over. Finally your friends. I said, that's not the case. Because if it's a stranger, I can say something rude and walk away. But if if they are my friends, I have to live with them for next 2 years, and I care about that relationship. And they were like, yes.
So that was good to know. So moving to you, Mayank, you lead integrated business planning and digitization at Reliance. And so we had put out our panelists. So this is a question that comes from one of the students. How can data science be used to optimize, their performance and drive? Basically, how can data science be used to drive efficiencies in the roles that you are in? Let's say specifically leadership.
Okay. So when I think of it, the question can mean 2 things maybe. So first thing is what is the role of data science in the leadership discipline as such? Or the second part can be like as leaders, once you joined a corporation, how can you use data science to leverage efficiency? I'm guessing it is the second question.
Yeah, I think so too.
So nowadays we are surrounded with data. Data is everywhere. You are watching a video, you are browsing a post, you are looking at a website, you are doing some shopping. Whatever you are doing, data is being collected. Same in corporation, whatever sales you are doing, there are so many data points being collected. So right now this video is being recorded. At what point of time, let's say someone is dropping off from the video, or what are the sections of the video which someone will be repeating. All this data is available now. So the question earlier used to be like how to collect the data. Now the question is not there anymore. Now there is so much of data available that the question is what to do with the data. So this is where the education that you are going to undertake will help you out. Because in during an MBA, you will be learning about the various perspectives that will define a problem. That will, we are talking about perspectives here. So what are the various perspectives of a problem that you should be tackling? Also, you will learn about the various frameworks. So you are given with a problem, there can be multitudes of ways to tackle it. So there will be some specific framework which you will learn on, yes, I mean, this is the approach that you can take to ultimately reach to the solution. And there are many teams within Reliance who are doing data science. So they are dedicated team as well as there are like individual teams where there is data science component being taken up. As an example, so basically right now we are just talking about how the education will help. To take examples like some of the real cases where this data science helps. So as like he mentioned, I am in the supply chain profile at this moment. One of the very important ingredient that goes into is demand planning. So whether it's a B2C company, B2B company, any company, like they will agree that demand, it's one of the core thing around which you have to do the planning, because the way you will be producing or sourcing, stocking, distributing, selling, everything will be dependent on this demand. Of course, your sales team, marketing team, the other market research, they will help you out with what the demand can be. But a lot of it has to come out from the data. So what are the, like, I mean, on the very onset, you might be involved in deciding which are the data points that you need to capture. And once the data is available, then you have to decide like what to do with this data, how to capture demand. Is it just the history of the data that you are trying to extrapolate? Or is it some like external factors also that you are trying to bring in? I mean, they talk about time series. In time,
I tell them to build a professional network. Now, I don't know, once they get to MBA, hopefully they get better. But in graduation, building your MBA network essentially translates to adding people, more and more people on LinkedIn and various other places. So I would like to ask you this, Avanti. How do you think that, especially MBA grads, people who are getting into the B schools, how can they effectively network and basically build their professional network? Online, offline, what are some of the tips that you'd like to share?
I'm going to share an anecdote. I was just like, what you said, like just add people aimlessly. Like I have 1,000 people on my LinkedIn sort of a person. And then I also thought that this is not my cup of tea. I'm like an introvert, possibly don't know what to speak to people, and it doesn't come naturally to me. But believe you me, I think one thing that stands out in the last 16 years is the relationships and the network I've created. And that's one thing that's always, kept me in good stead. And I'll reflect back on the different kinds of networks that you can start with. The first one is, of course, the peer group that you're going to be with, right? And in the earlier conversation, we spoke a lot about diverse perspectives. It is bright minds coming together with varied experiences in the last 20, 25 years that they've had in their lives, and make the most of them, understand what they know, the situations they've been in, any experiences they've had, societies, cultures, communities they've been a part of. And that would be one starting point that you would leverage for the next many, many, many years to come. I graduated from TIS a long while back, and it's those 30 people that I keep in touch with on and off, sometimes even after 4 or 5 years, saying, you know what, I'm stuck here, how are you doing it? Or just to say, we are trying to do something new, I know you guys experienced it, shared some learnings with me. And that always gets me some results. It sometimes even doesn't take any introduction, any hello, we just get back into it and feel like we went back 15, 16 years. So don't stay in the group. Don't stay, we are from the same graduation college, speak the same language, are from the same city, that's great, build on that. But go beyond that. Try and have a relationship with every single person in an authentic way, saying, tell me more about what you know. And 4 or 5 years down the line, there'll be so many experiences that would add on that you could then leverage to the advantage of yourself and the broader organization that you serve. So network with your classmates, network with alumni. I mean, one thing is to add people from your, from the school that you studied in. But don't just make it about adding, right? You can take the conversation forward. You can always say, I'm starting out, I'm struggling a little bit with this. or I'm preparing for an interview, or I'm working on this project, or my internship is about this. Could you talk to me for 10 minutes? And people versus just sending me random LinkedIn requests versus making it genuine and saying, this is where I am. And if you can just spend 10 minutes talking to me, it'll be great. I think the second one always has a preference. So when you're also reaching out to your alumni or people that have been from your B school, make it specific. Say, what do you want from it? Job comes much, much later, but it's these relationships that you will cultivate for 4-5 years, the meaningful impact that you will have on them is when they will look back and say, oh, so-and-so connected with me. They are potentially, working on these 2-3 functions. If I have something in the future, I will go and reach out to them. So don't lose out on that. Don't make it generic. Make it very specific. Make it authentic. Ask them specific questions that will help you take a more informed decision wherever you are. And then, of course, there are so many other opportunities, right? You all are going to do internships in so many great organizations. Again, don't make it about your project. Of course, that will determine the outcome, and that should be your focus. But make it about, relationships. Reach out to cross-functional teams, talk to leaders, tell them what your project is about, how would it impact what they are doing, and keep in touch with a few of them. So I think these relationships also take you very, very far. And ultimately, I think a good way of also building network is participation in a lot of events. You get to know people, you understand how they are thinking. Tomorrow, one of you could reach out to one of us saying, you said this and it resonated or it didn't, and here's why, and what do you think about it? And that would make, a special connect. So I think if I were to summarize, it's about ensuring that different stakeholders in your journey you're able to tap and make it very specific. Say what you need and, address it at that versus just saying a hello and moving on or just adding somebody on LinkedIn. So I think that really has helped me. I was not conscious about it. And if I were to look back at my 22-year-old self and give advice, it would be taking that a little bit more seriously. I think I lost out on some opportunities there. So take these words of wisdom from me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have always believed that youth is wasted on the young. So you do realize some of the things much later on in your career. Say, for example, and this is essentially leads to the next question to Sumit. I don't know how many of you attended the other session where we released the campus employment branding report, where we talked about, okay, what are the students doing? What do they want to do in future? Around 20 odd years ago when I was a student, my single criteria was, this company is giving me 25,000 rupees per month. This company is giving me 27,000 rupees per month. There is nothing else that matters, and I would apply to the 27,000 rupees a month. I'm very happy to see that obviously it has been 20 years, so as a human race we have moved forward. According to the report, people now do prefer career growth and career growth opportunities a lot more than what their starting salary is. And that leads to the question to Sumit. So at Flipkart, Walmart, Cleartrip, and the host of companies which are there, when you're hiring someone from a top B school in a management role, in a leadership role, they're still pretty young. What sort of career growth they can see at your group companies over the next 5 years, next 10 years? How does a typical career look like?
Right. So see, first, I think the world of business has seen 3 generations, right? The first one was the industrial revolution, which was like in late 70s and 80s, which was more towards survival mode, like our great grandparents, right? Then came, the information, kind of age where I think our parents, right, which were only focused on roti, kapda, makan kind of a thing, right? And then is a social revolution, like our kind of a age where I think the focus is more towards quality of life, right, and work-life balance. So we are actually living in an age where most of the folks in the ecosystem are looking forward for the quality of work, and that's precisely what he spoke about. But I think, in Flipkart, we focus more on a very robust, very systemic and very methodical assimilation plan for our management trainees, right? And it's a very, very strong, very, very, very strong in-depth program, which is divided into two parts, stint 1 and stint 2. And we actually give a lot of exposure to these management trainees in various cohorts. Right? For example, if anyone is coming in business, so we can expose them to various business domains. If anyone is coming in HR, we can expose them to various HR domains. But I think in Flipkart, we are doing three things right now. One is we are working with this talent marketplace called Thrive. I'm not really sure.
Heard of it.
Yeah. So Thrive is a fantastic platform where we can actually publish all the projects, all the running projects in Flipkart, and we can assign mentors there, and the people can actually discover, some of the projects and assignments, and they can enroll directly, right? The second thing is very important in Flipkart is the internal mobility program, which is IJP, which we say, right? And it's very, very strong program because a business guy can move into product, an engineering guy can move into business or product, right? So we have, very, very strong mobility, kind of exchange program internally where we give a lot of exposure to internal folks to kind of change, their career, right? And the third thing we do very, very strongly is running many career fest inside the organization. Very, very strong, right? So people can actually go and see what are the various opportunities available in Flipkart or Walmart or ClearTrip or, Flipkart Health. And they can, take that opportunity and talk to their manager and go forward, right? So Flipkart is a very people-centric organization, very, very people-centric. And we actually enable employees to own their own career rather than we owning their career. So that's what we do.
Fair enough. Just a little bit about the internal mobility part. So let's say if I'm working in Flipkart and I want to switch to, say, Walmart or ClearTrip, do you guys encourage that as well? Or is it the Flipkart guys will broadly stay inside Flipkart? And
No. So we do have, obviously, from Walmart to Flipkart and Flipkart to Walmart, there is a specific process we follow. And this is within the guidelines. But I think within group companies like Myntra and, Flipkart and ClearTrip and Flipkart Health Plus, there is a very easy mobility. You can just, there is a, tool inside where you can see the opportunities, click on it, go with the process and move.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It does give you, it opens up a large number of opportunities versus if you were just, if you are on ClearTrip and you will just...
Exactly. See, I am a talent acquisition guy, but if I really want to move to a business role, I have that opportunity. I can actually go forward and apply to those roles, right? And obviously, depending on the fitment of that role, Flipkart will facilitate that movement, right? But as a company, we are giving that opportunity. You can go and discover roles.
Absolutely.
And I will like to add a little bit here. And these are some of the real benefits of general management type of a role. Because the kind of mobility that the company is providing you, the options that they are providing, the learning that happens in this. For example, in Reliance also, there are 2 stints which, if you are selected to the Reliance Emerging Leaders Program, RELP, which is the flagship program. So there are 2 stints by default which will be happening. And these can happen from one group to other. So like earlier when I have joined as a MT, I have joined in the Reliance hydrocarbon unit. And I was to stay, there were rotations, but it has to happen within hydrocarbons. But now the first stint can happen in hydrocarbons, the second can happen in Geo, Retail, Reliance Foundation, or any of the group companies for that matter that we have. And apart from that, there are so many, these build up so many perspectives. So once you are in one of the area, then you gather certain, learn about that function. And once you are going into some other function, it is not just the addition, it is actually the exponential or the multiplication which happens. Because then once you are aware about multiple functions, you can add so much more value to the work at hand that it's really great. So that's what are the type of opportunities that are available in the companies these days.
And I think, see, any career is good, guys. So for example, if you really want to move to HR or business or technology or product, see, you need to understand, the opportunities overall, what are the relevant opportunities for you. And you really need to decide and do a lot of introspection that do you really want to go in that domain or not, right? Every segment at this point of time is booming. And especially HR, I mean HR, because I am in HR right now, HR itself is a very interesting domain, right? And there are too many things within HR. So any domain you pick, you just do a deep dive, do a lot of introspection, and then go for it.
Thank you, Samit. Well, when we talk about internal mobility, the company that probably has mastered it over the last 5 or 6 decades is the Tata Group with their TAS program. So that leads me to Sheetal. What are some of the things that you have been in the TAS program for how many years now? 3 years. So what are some of the things that you have learned here which you believe, it'll be good if the kids learn in the B school itself?
I'll give you a little bit brief about how TAS year 1 is structured. So we get 4 stints of around 3 months roughly in 4 different Tata companies, and one is a community stint where you have to predominantly work on CSR initiative. It's very challenging every 3 months, so that's for 1 year of your work experience. Great on CV, but very, very challenging because after every 3 months you have a review, and at the end you have a mega review of all the stints that you had done. So it's really unnerving. We feel like we're sitting in placements again. But I'd like to admit here, I did not have one of the strongest CVs back in B school. So I have a career break. I was preparing for National Pastime of India, Civil Services, I did not clear. Then I thought of the colleges, and then fortunately got into TIS. So there was a lot of struggle. And I was very, very unaware of how can I make that CV strong enough and what I would do in TAS. So when I entered TAS, first my thought was, how did I get in? And after some time I thought, like, how did he get in? So it's everything. So it's very different once you experience it. But I think one of the major things that really made my CV strong, and it's on my LinkedIn, like, we participated in case study competitions, and to a very large extent that really built up my confidence because I knew I could face panels. I knew I had applied my subjects, and I knew the subjects that I had worked on. So Unstop was there to compete back then, and I think if there was a challenge, I would be now in top 10 or not top 15. I really utilized this platform, and that really gave me the the insight on what are the companies looking for. When we went for presentation, they really questioned us, like, why did you think of this? Why did you think of this? And all my stints were exactly that. We get a case to solve a real life problem, and with limited resources, we have to make assumptions. We will have teams that we have not selected. We will have team members that we like and dislike. We will have long hours, but it's great. So I think case study competitions and putting yourself out there, I'm not comfortable, like my hands are sweating. If you've seen, I have wiped my hands 2 times already. I feel like I'm in a placement again. But that really helped me gain that confidence. And when I faced TAS, the interview board, and they asked me, of course, that's the first question, you have 4 years of break. And I said, yes, but I also have this in my CV. I understand where I lack, but I also understand what I do well. And that has really helped me, work very well in stints. And so even, I was part of summer placement, so I got a PPO there. And even during one of my stints, I chose the company that I wanted to go because they were happy with how I performed and how your experience. So that's how I think management school, you have to really utilize your B school.
Yeah, so part of utilizing the B school is that you get a PPO from the internship. Not everyone gets that. I'd like to take this to Mayank. So getting a PPO is probably the best thing that can happen during an internship. But we are all aware that's not always going to happen. What are some of the things that, as B school students, these guys can do during an internship, which would A, help them learn and grow, and B, showcase their talents, their skills, not to the current company, but some future potential employer when they actually sit for placements, that, okay, these are the things that I did during an internships. What are your thoughts on that?
Competing for internship is like competing for placement in many cases. You are literally fighting with your classmates for some maybe target companies which you would have chosen. So it's not an easy thing. So you might not necessarily be in control of which company you might land up in. And even if you land up in the same company, in certain cases, you might not be aware which project you will be getting. So I distinctly remember I did my internship in GE, and I was assigned the project only after I have officially joined and the induction was over. So this thing, getting an internship of your choice, not necessarily in your control. What thing is in your control is how you prepare yourself. So one thing, for example, if one of the key things which I feel are very important, and we have seen in the past session as well, that data. We are living in a digital world, and we have a lot of data points being collected for everything. So I'm just taking that example again, like it can be in any of the area. While preparing for the internship, one additional thing that you can do is you can create your own personal projects. And you can have a website on which you are publishing what are the things that you are interested in or you are doing. So of course, in all the internship material is not something that you can highlight on your personal website, because many of the things, the projects, these are critical or strategic projects. In Reliance, if you are some of the projects will be of a strategic nature, which are really important for the company, and the data you won't be able to disclose. You can just be able to disclose the analysis, or at least what is the approach that you have followed. So you can have some personal projects which you can highlight, which will definitely help you in putting your candidature forward.
Yeah, please.
So, I've often heard a lot of interns, at the end of the internship speak about, but this is so specific to the organization. What am I taking away? And yes, I agree. The project might be very, very specific to that organization, but you take away a truckload. And sometimes in that thick of things, you just focus on the project itself, but not your own journey. There are so many things to learn, right? How did you get time from the leaders? What were the debates surfaced? What were the resources that you had? Why did you choose a certain option versus something else? And these are transferable. So your journey, your takeaways, the mistakes that you made, how you corrected them, are potential conversations that you will have in the future. So that, I think, is your takeaway from the internship. You might not be able to share confidential information, but don't undermine your journey. In fact, document your journey so that 10, 15 years down the line, you can look back and say, okay, these were the big takeaways I took. Because you will be talking about your experience versus a very, very specific project that might be very organization focused or even confidential in nature for that matter.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for that, Avanti. I believe she said that it's important to document and understand the mistakes. So on that theme, I am going to wrap it up here, because Alekhya had made a mistake of extending his panel, and I'm not going to do that. I was told 1 o'clock is the cutoff, and as you can see, we are exactly at 1. So I'd like to thank all of you for taking out time today, coming and talking to students, hopefully answering some of the queries, if not all that they have in their heads. And I hope to be on a panel with you guys again sometime very soon. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we can have a bigger round of applause. That was such an amazing conversation, because I think a lot of us forget how to be authentic. A lot of us think if we're introverts, we can't make it big. And Sheetal, I would just like to say, in spite of the sweaty hands, you got the biggest laugh out of the crowd for India's national pastime, which is preparing for the civil service. So it was wonderful to have all of you. It was a really, really wonderful conversation. And we have Ravi on stage with us moderating the next session as well. And this is a very, very special one, because we've heard from so many great minds from the industry, but it's now going to be an all-student panel. It's MBA Garage Insights and Secrets from PlaceComm Members, PPO Holders, and more. And joining us on our all-student panel are Sunain Banga. Sunain is a 2023 graduate from MDI Gurgaon and an Unstop competitive B-School leader for 2022 and 2023. Big round of applause. He has participated in several flagship competitions, including Bond with Pidilite, RPG Blizzard, Amazon Ace, Colgate Transcend, and many others. He interned at Pidilite Industries Limited, where he earned a PPO for his performance. He takes deep interest in product management, and marketing. It's wonderful to have an Unstop competitive B school leader with us today. Very, very special. We also have Ayushi Rawat. Ayushi is an engineer, has been an engineer, an advertiser, and now an aspiring marketer. A big round of applause for her. In the first year of her MBA at IIM Calcutta, she got a chance to explore different industries through multiple case competitions, due to which she also received an internship offers from Unilever and Godrej. Besides this, whatever time she gets, she pursues her hobbies of creating crafts, singing, and exploring new places. Maybe a song at the end of this. And we next have Sadhana Sharma, who has graduated from IIM Ahmedabad this year. She's a chartered accountant. A big round of applause for Sadhana. With pre-MBA work ex of more than 3 years in finance at Vedanta and Yum Brands, along with her articleship at Deloitte. We cannot wait to hear for all the secrets of success from all of you. Over to you, Ravi. Big round of applause, everyone, for our all students.
Rather hopefully that's good news for you guys, not for me. Please understand that. So to begin with, so Sunain, you are from MDI Gurgaon, Ayushi from IIM Calcutta, and Sadhana from IIM Ahmedabad. 2023 batch, all three of you?
No, 2024.
2024, Acha,
Yes,
you are currently
graduate.
a student there.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So let's start with you, Ayushi.
Sure.
You have, how many PPOs do you have currently, or how many job opportunities have you had?
So during this tenure, I've had 3 offers. I had a PPO from Unilever, from Godrej Capital, and a PPI from Amazon.
That's brilliant. And those 3 sectors are really different, right? So Unilever would be FMCG. When Beverly mentioned Godrej, I thought that would be in the, so Godrej Capital, which would be finance, and Amazon, what sort of role?
Product
So Amazon is a product role. Brilliant. So then it comes to me. You're in your first year, you would have done some electives, but there is still a lot to learn. How do you actually decide which one to go for? And first of all, have you made that decision? And on what basis did you decide I'll go with X or Y or Z?
Right. So coming to your question, it's a very important decision of your life. Since the company that you would be joining, you're thinking ideally of having a long-term career in the same company. So for me, because since these domains are very different, first of all, I looked at the industry that I'm really interested in, and the industry I was most interested in was marketing. So that was the key for me. Then after identifying the domain that you are interested in, it is really important to look at the company, the culture, the value at the company, and what can you provide to the company. The company is already giving you an offer, but you have to see what you can additionally provide. Because when you join as an intern in a company, you're ideally looking to grab an offer from there, grab a PPO. And also when you're looking to join a company for the final placement, you're looking for a long-term career. So you have to be very sure that the company that you're joining has the right values that aligns with you. And also beside this, to make up my mind that marketing was for me, I spoke to a lot of seniors who were interning at that time in the same company, and someone who has been in the company for like 5 years to know what is the growth trajectory. And also subjects marketing helped me to solidify this decision of mine. So that's how I decided.
So that's how you decided for Unilever?
Yes, yes. I'm currently interning there.
You're currently interning there. And other than the, as we talked about in the report, was salary a consideration, or did Unilever offer the best salary, or were the others better?
So in marketing, yes, definitely. And out of all 3 also, yes. But the consideration was not just salary, it was marketing as a domain that I was really interested into. So I was a part of Unilever Changemakers program, which happens before your B school journey starts. So that sort of gave me an insight into the industry, what kind of work is done there, and that really struck a chord with me. And
So it's essentially a long-term plan which has been going on. Okay, before I get into a B school, so you started thinking about this, what, 2 years before this actually happened, or a year and a half before the fact?
No, so Unilever Changemakers is a program that happens like 1 or 2 months before you're about to join your B school.
Okay.
So
No, fair enough. And, getting multiple offers from leading brands is not something that happens to most of us, if not, it's happens to a probably a tiny minority, even from top B schools. So did you have any specific strategy in place that, okay, this is what I'm going to do? And did platforms or technology, let's say platforms like Unstop, help you in this journey on some way?
So initially, when I got the admit for IIM Calcutta and other colleges, I did not have any such. I did not had any such strategy that I'll aim for a PPO or a PPI. As I mentioned, it was only after getting a chance to be a part of Unilever Changemakers when I got the offer from them and from other companies. And this was also due to competition. So Godrej was due to a program called Godrej Loud. Amazon, because of their flagship event, case competition, which is Amazon Ace. So it was due to all these events that I got the offer. And after getting the offer, I strategized that how do I crack it? And then I sort of looked into the company more. What brands do they have? Like for Unilever, what brands do they have in their portfolio? What are their different campaigns? What are the things that I like about the company? How can I add value? And then after all of this, it is very important to look at your CV also, because you need to know yourself in and out, because the interviewer is also there to know you. So it's better that you know yourself first, that what your interests are. So that's how I strategized after getting the offer, but it wasn't before that. Yes.
No, but how, say, Amazon Ace and all these programs that you're talking about, because a lot of these kids are essentially getting into B school now. And you said that you looked at these programs in the early days or sometimes even before joining the B school. How did you even find out about, the Unilever program or the Amazon Ace program and all
Yes. So here's where the role of technology comes, and platforms like Unstop has given me immense opportunities. So I've participated in other competitions also beyond this through Unstop only. So Amazon was listed on Unstop, and Godrej came directly to the college, and Unilever was also listed on some other platform. So it was due to all these platforms only. And I believe the platform plays a really important role, because these days companies have started hiring not just from the colleges but also through these competitions that they're providing. And this year I remember Unstop also provided the very first season of Boat Wave Makers and Maruti Suzuki Accelerate. So in that sense, these platforms have been of immense help to students who are getting into colleges, whether they are in the first year or second year.
Thank you, Ayushi. Someone please edit this particular part. We'll use this in an Unstop campaign 2 months down the line. Moving to you, Sunen. What role does networking and teams play in B schools? Because from your background, from the brief that I've got, that you have been involved in a bunch of team-based activities, and you have taken part in a bunch of competitions. I believe some of the awards here as well today. So, A, what do you think is generally these team sort of activities? How do they help? And B, how do you actually decide that, okay, Handa is going to be my team member and Ayushi is not going to be my team member? What makes you decide that?
If it were up to me, I'll take you both in my team. That being said, so what does networking do is basically, I first chose my teammates from my college section, right? So the people nearest to you, that's what you choose. And then you realize it's not fitting. And then there is one teammate sitting right back, Muskan Kedia, and she's the finance genius of our college. And I met her through one of the friends. And we have been teammates for several competitions through the entire year. Now I know my strength lies in product, and I can pitch someone what the product needs to be. And then there was another teammate, Akshay Rajput. He was the marketing mind. He would think of campaigns, what would hit with the audience of India. And when we think of campaigns, we think of the glorified campaigns. We don't think of what can be done next. So as it was mentioned that I was a participant in Bond with Pidilite, there we went up with a title of India Chalta Jugaad Se, Jugaad Ka Sathi Fevikwik. Now, it was a very bold statement, but we know Pidilite is a company that will be able to pull it off because they have the campaigns that have done that in the past. So we picked that up and we went ahead with that. And then the finances, right? If you asked me to make a P&L 2 years ago, I would have stuttered. I don't.
No one expects what's your background? Engineering?
Engineering.
No one expects an engineer to make a P&L.
Exactly. So. I didn't know the full form until I joined MBA. Now I can make balance sheets as well. I give projections over the years what is going to be the winning propaganda for the company. But that's where the teammates come in. So as I said, Muskan is here. She actually taught me how to make a P&L. And I have learned finances because of her. And that actually brings you to the table, right? You need one guy who can strategize or a product or something like that, one guy who can market, and one person who can do the finances, because it's impossible to do everything by yourself. And that's why the companies have different roles, right? It's impossible to do everything by yourself. And then we assume what we are offering is the best solution, think that the company has been working on this problem. So most of the cases are given are live cases, companies actually facing them. So they have had a team of 50 working Monday to Friday, 12 hours a day, solving that problem. So you need a diverse background, and that's where the networking comes in.
See, I always hated these type of people when they were in my college, because they would never pick me. Because, you know, the medium category groups, what happens is that, okay, there will be one guy who will be doing 70%, there will be another guy who will be doing another 20-25%, and then there will be the two guys who will come to the stage and then present the presentation. That's essentially what my role used to be. And people like him never picked me in my team. So hopefully things change. So internships is one way to get into, a role of your choice. Cracking competitions is another. The third one is probably the more popular one, which is essentially what Sadhna, you worked in the PlaceComm committee at IMM.
That's right.
That's the best way to get the best job offers, let me tell you that. So, any particular reasons? Why did you pick that, and how did you pick that? How did you even get to be a part of the PlaceComm committee over there?
Okay, so for me, it has always been about whatever work I do in an organization, or so to say in a college, it should create an impact. So impact creation is very important for me. And what I saw during the first year of my college was that because we are directly in touch with the PlaceComm mentors, right? And we see them working so hard. So I saw them creating the impact which is visible and direct. They are directly responsible for their junior batches placements and the senior batches placements. So for me, that impact which the PlaceComm creates, that was the reason why I wanted to join. And personally, another reason was I think as a PlaceCommer, you are able to inculcate the capabilities and abilities that help you have better people management skills, because there you have to deal directly with the HRs, you have to negotiate with them, so you're able to handle the situations very well. So these were my reasons to join the PlaceComm.
So prior to joining the B School, did you work in any sort of similar roles before B School, dealing with HR and recruitment or anything like that, or no?
So I have an experience of more than 3 years before joining IMA at Vedanta and Yum Brands. However, because there you don't deal with the recruiters directly, you just deal when you're changing the jobs. But here on daily basis, you're talking to them. You understand what they want. You understand what their requirements are, how the market is. So I think that really helps.
Sure. Let's say if I ask you, what was the biggest advantage of being a PlaceCommer, and what was the biggest disadvantage of... See, an internship is always a good idea. Cracking a competition or even taking part in a competition is always a good idea, because even if you don't win, you at least learn a lot.
Absolutely, yes.
And what I've heard from a lot of PlaceCommers is that it's obviously very, very hectic. There is no denying that. But beyond that, so in your own thought process, what do you think was the biggest advantage and the biggest disadvantage of that year of your career?
Biggest advantage, what I feel, as I just mentioned, that because you deal with the recruiters, you become a better negotiator. You know how to manage the stress well, because you're getting a batch of more than 400 placed, and I mean the number is different for different colleges. But then so that time management, that is something that you learn when you're in PlaceComm. And secondly, not just dealing with the recruiters, but because you're not just a PlaceCommer, you're actually a PlaceComm mentor. So you also mentor mentor the students from the junior batch, and that's how you inculcate. You start to understand when to be soft and when to be harsh sometimes, because you have to push the students to create better CVs, to put better CV points in their resumes at times. So that balance as a PlaceComm mentor, that really helps you grow personally, I feel. Now, talking about the disadvantage, you just mentioned that disadvantage is managing a lot of things because you have to have good grades because, of course, you're getting your senior and junior batches placed, but you have to, I mean, for the finals, grade really matters, especially for some of the profiles. So you have to work on your grades as well. So managing classes along with the PlaceComm, and if on top of that, if you want to participate, let's say in other extracurricular activities, that becomes really very difficult. So yeah, time management is one thing that that could be a problem.
I do understand. Coming to time management, I believe, Sunan, because a lot of these competitions, maybe in your time they would have been online, but for some of them you would have to travel, you'll have to take breaks from college. At the college, your prof is not going to give you a better grade because you took part in a competition. That never happens. Even though you win, come home with a 3 feet check and a certificate, but it's not so. How do you believe that because at the end of the day, the pre-placement offers, or so you got your job through a PPO or via the regular placement?
So actually, I got placed through my campus first. Then I won the same competition. Then I got a PPO through that internship.
So, how do you actually manage this entire thing? Because people would want to take part in competitions just for the thrill of it. I actually I have been a quizzer for most of my, at least in college, and it was a little difficult, but because your competitions not necessarily get you a job, you have to work for the job as well. So how do you manage the two things?
Okay, so I met this wonderful lady downstairs, and she said it's never smooth sailing. It's about the attitude that you have through the waves. And I guess that's what happens with most of the competitions as well. There are, so I have a lot of wins on my plate, and I have 10 PPI offers through the entire year. But at the same time, those 10 were one of many. So if I have a complete folder where I keep all my presentations, and there are 300 odd of them, and I have like 100 odd wins or 100 odd finals or something like that over the 2 years that I have been, right? But the thing is, and I didn't get any big checks, if that's one of the biggest points, right? If you win HUL Lime, that's a 10 lakh rupee check with you, but you don't always, right? And sadly, most of the competitions I win didn't have a cash prize. But anyway, the people behind you, right behind you, the faces, right? I recognize a lot of them. Even Ayushi, I felt I have seen her before because I was in ACE as well. And that's the kind of people you get to meet. When you go in your B school, you have to fill a resume that's end-to-end one whole page, right? And it's crazy because I walked in and I wasn't able to fill half a page. I have 22 months of work experience and I still wasn't able to. And I had to write 8 lines in my work experience, and I had 4 lines in my interest to just fill it out. And interest is the section that you are not supposed to fill.
Listening to music.
And I had 4 lines there, and I had written all of these different things. I like motorbiking, I like gaming, I like this, I like that, something to talk about. Right now at this point, because I've done so much through Unstop, I got different competitions when I got some internships, I got different opportunities, PPIs as well for smaller internships as well. I don't have space on my resume anymore. And that is, I think, what you should be aiming for when you come for competitions. It's not about winning the money or the lingering PPI. It's about learning. So as I said, right, I did not know what a PNL meant, but I now can make one. And that's, I guess, the biggest opportunity that
So just a follow-up on that, Sunan. So I believe there will be plenty of students here who would not have taken part in any competition during their graduation years. A lot of us don't. From there to just joining a B school, how do you suggest that, okay, if someone wants to, okay, this sounds like a good idea. I do not have a good resume. How do I build a good resume? I take part in a few competitions. Some of them, there is a certain probability that I'll become better and I'll win at it. How do you suggest people figure this part out, that, okay, which competition should I take part in, or how do I actually win a competition? Are there some tips that you would like to share?
Okay, so this is what I did even before I joined the B school. There was a guy who won the Unstop award last year. He was 10th or 12th, right? And he was interested into competitions. My first competition I took up with that guy. I just told him, inter-college team is allowed, inter-department team is allowed, everything is allowed, year is also allowed. Let's team up, I just want to learn. And I saw him working with his other two teammates. Like, what are they thinking, what do they actually do, and what do they finally present? Because when you think of solutions, you will have 10,000 of solutions. And even this happened with my own team as well. So we would do the research, I didn't do a lot of research, but yeah, we'll do the research, we'll pinpoint problems. You are wrong, we'll fight for 3 hours. And then there will be one very dominant solution, which one of us recommended. And that person will definitely do this. I told you so. We would have saved time. And that is how you actually build a team as well. And that helps you a lot through your MBA journey. So just to start off, find someone who is ready to go on a lower competition. Not high stakes, not high reward, just a starter. Learn what do you actually think and then implement it through all of your competitions as well.
Fair enough. So right now I don't think Sunayan is available because he has already graduated, but Ayushi is. So if any of you is planning to get into the loop with an inter-college or an inter-year thing, look her up on LinkedIn, might just work out. Ayushi, do you take part in any competitions or stuff like that?
Yes, so I do take part in competitions, and so I discovered this when I entered the B school. So before entering a B school, I was an engineer and I had a work ex of 11 months. During that entire time, I was never participating into such competition. But when I got into B school, I noticed for the first few competitions on Unstop only, and I started participating in it. So me and my team member, we used to do the submission, even if it was only 1 hour was left to the submission. We had this thing that we want to make the submission and we'll make it no matter how good it is or how bad it is in just an hour. So after time, we started improving this thing, and yes. So,
fair enough. So, Satna, my next question is to you. So, because you have insights into the hiring process, so to say. Now, obviously, when they get into a B school, these guys interact with their seniors. Maybe over the next 6 to 9 months, they'll figure out that what the employers are looking for. Is there something that you can share with people who are entering a B school in another month and a half now? What is something that they can do from day one to make their profile more attractive to the employers? Or generally, how can they improve themselves to be, look good to recruiters, so to say, from day one? Grades is something that is there, but beyond that.
So now, what the companies look for, it totally depends on the company itself, the role that they're offering. However, what I have seen generally is that you should always have a balance in your resume. As in, not just the grades, you should always have good extracurriculars. You should try to put some PORs, and even if you don't have a work ex, then you can balance other things with the extras and co-curricular activities. So from day one, I think that you should, become a part of the clubs that you have in the college. It really helps. Then, you may want to take PORs. Now, what other companies look for? Of course, one, the balance in your resume. It should not be. Even if you're lacking somewhere, the other section of your resume could probably cover up for that. Secondly, the role that the company is providing, it depends on that as well. For example, some marketing companies might want to look at the case competitions that you would have won in the marketing domain, or the consult companies might want to look for the strategy and consult case competitions. That really helps because they know that you're interested in that, is why you've participated in that competition and you won as well. So the finance companies, some finance companies might prefer people who are having work ex in the similar domains. So apart from the case competitions, PORs, extracurriculars, grades, these are the things that you should focus on from day one. And of course, from day one, you should start networking as well. Networking really helps. It helps you grow not only through your B school journey, but after that as well.
Thank you. Thanks for that. I don't know how many of you noticed or not, but I believe someone just switched the screen off and on again in between. Might have been an indication for us to wrap up. I don't know. So I think what I'll do is I'll hold on to my questions, and probably if any of you has any questions for the panel, we'll like to answer that. In case. Okay, yeah, right at the front.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. You are part of the college, and you have been passed out of the college. I would like to know which clubs one should be joining. I mean, in the college, and what are the benefits of it and the negative things of it. How many clubs one should be joining, and how to do time management alongside it so that our grades are good.
Yeah, I think that's addressed to you, Sadhna.
See, well, it totally depends on what kind of club you're joining. And I feel that you should really be interested in that club. For example, I was a part of Decibel, which is the music club of IIM Ahmedabad. So in the first year, I was a part of Decibel and the TRBS. Now, what clubs you should apply for, you should be interested in that. Even if you don't know, how to dance, but you should apply for the dance club as well. And trust me, these clubs are actually great platform to, build more relationships and to network as well. Now, about the time management, see, in the first year, it's very, you're able to manage the time. You have to work on your grades, and at the same time, there's club work as well. So that's what you learn, right, during MBA, to manage all of these things together. So what kind of clubs you should be a part of, that totally depends on your interest. You will not be able to make, efforts for all the clubs. So I think you should have this thing in your mind that if I'm a part of this club, then I should contribute. And you should have some contribution there in the club. You should not be a part of the club just for the sake of it, or just probably to get a CV point.
Thank you, Sadhna. And on that note of time management, we will like to wrap up this particular session. I'd like to thank Sunayan, Ayushi, and Sadhna for taking out their time, and hopefully you guys learn something from it. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much to all of you. There was no singing. I'm very upset about it. There's still a moment. Actually, you could sing a song that reminds you of success, so when you're down. Is there anything you can sing? No, she doesn't want to. Ravi, what about you? I was asking you, you promised us a song. But the hall will empty.
There are way too many people.
Absolutely. And a very interesting thing that Ravi said was to take some of the snippets from this actually and put it into a video. And we've already done that, but not with the snippets from this. But it is a very interesting video. The Unstop team actually went on the ground in Delhi University to celebrate the achievements of some of its talented users by putting their unstoppable resume across campus. So let's see how it went.
We asked the students of DU what problem did you face in your applications while applying for jobs and internships.
जॉब के लिए एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए और एक्सपीरियंस के लिए जॉब चाहिए। अब ये जादू कहाँ से करूँ भाई? जॉब? इससे तो अपनी दुकान पर बैठना है। जॉब्स इतनी कम है और बच्चे इतने ज़्यादा। भाई स्टैंड आउट कैसे करूँ?
3 मिनट लगाकर रिज्यूमे बनाया और कोई नोटिस ही नहीं करता।
Make your unstoppable resume. And while some of them had brunch with Ankit, you can also maybe have lunch with Ankit right now because he's right here with us. Ankit, you want to tell us a little bit about that campaign and why it was so special and who came up with it?
Okay, so basically our marketing team came up with the campaign. And why we decided this campaign was essentially, see, don't I unstop to get a job. Okay? Eventually you will get a job either from college or through Unstop. Majorly, the important thing is that what do you do in those 2 years and how are you creating resume points. So in our next discussion, they will deep dive into how he was able to create an impeccable resume and how he was able to get, I think, 6 PPOs, PPIs, right, offers. College only gives 1 offer, right? But only through Unstop and through these opportunities, you are able to get multiple offers, right? I think that was the genesis of the campaign, Beverly, and that's why we sort of created that out. We are sort of creating your resume so that you stand out from the rest. That's it.
Absolutely, and I think that's something everyone wants to do now. And if you want to get your resume on a billboard, I think you better pay very close attention to the next fireside chat. Thank you so much, Ankit. A big round of applause. Ankit's the reason we're all here today. And if you were wondering who Ankit was pointing out to in the front row, that is Saurav Kumar, who is from the batch of 2023 of FMS Delhi. He completed his undergraduation from NIT Jamshedpur and received a pre-placement offer from Tata Motors. A big round of applause for him as he joins us on stage. At FMS, he excelled in business competitions and completed his summer internship at Kearney, India, successfully converting it into a PPO, making him an incoming consultant at Kearney. Saurav has been awarded the Dean's Roll of Honor in both years of his MBA. Saurav, please take a seat. And a big round of applause. And this fireside chat, a very special one, will be moderated by Daksh Sethi, founder Gooby Rogers, and a rising content creator. He's a 2-time TEDx speaker, Josh Talk speaker, a corporate trainer, and an entrepreneur. He has conducted, spoken at, and been invited to over 180 events, workshops, and conferences, having trained over 40,000 individuals across field and age groups. He's on a mission to make India's youth the best version of themselves. You're certainly in the right room for that. Thank you so much for joining us, Daksh, and please join us on stage. Over to you.
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you for that sweet introduction, and I hope everybody is doing well. Yeah? At the back, am I audible at the back? 2.5 hours of non-stop content and a lot of information, yeah? Does everybody need a stretch or something? This is going to be the last leg of the entire program. But before that, I just want to warm you guys up a little. All right? Everybody ready for that? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take a minute over here. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to say one word, but I'm going to say it in a certain tone. And I want you to repeat the same word or a slightly different word from that in the same tone. So I'm going to say, Oggy, Oggy, Oggy. And you have to say, Oe, Oe, Oe. Done? Oggy, Oggy, Oggy. And you will be saying, Oe, Oe, Oe. But you will be saying it in the same tone the way I say it. Let's go for it. Oggy, Oggy, Oggy. Oggy, Oggy, Oggy. Oggy, Oggy, Oggy. Oggy, Oggy, Oggy. Oggy. Okay, that's a lot of frustration inside for some reason. All right. Oggy, Oggy. Oggy, Oggy. Oggy, Oggy. 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 All right, give yourselves a round of applause. And to Unstop, and to Mr. Ankit over here, who's inspiring millions of students across the country to be unstoppable. We'll be moving into beyond buzzwords, unlocking the secret formula to build an unstoppable resume that unleashes your professional potential. With us over here, we have a very special guest, somebody who has not 1, not 2, but 6 PPOs from companies like Kearney, Microsoft, Reckitt, Tata Group, Airtel, Publicis, Sapient. And we'll be talking about this for the next 25 minutes. But from one Delhi guy to another, how's it going in Bangalore?
First of all, thank you for those good words. Bangalore, I think weather, it's the major differentiation when I come from Delhi. And a lot of understanding of language here in Bangalore, coming from Delhi. I think that's a challenge for me I face coming here in the morning. So these are the 2 things I see a lot of difference coming from Delhi. What all you felt?
Definitely the weather. Definitely the weather. How many of you are from Delhi or who have been to Delhi? Show of hands. Just raise your hands. Yeah, everybody can relate to that, right? The weather over here is just too good, I would say. But moving into something far more technical, sort of resumes. Yeah. First, it's not a resume. It's a resume. Like there's a lot of mispronunciation also going around in the market. Not a resume, a resume, right? So, how has your experience with building a strong resume been like?
See, a resume actually consists of multiple parts, and a resume that I see of myself coming from an engineering school to a B school, it's completely transformed. It's completely different. A lot of things has been added. A lot of things has been removed because you can't show everything to the recruiter. You can show only things what a recruiter is actually looking for, and you build upon those things. You work really hard to get those CV points on your resume. So yeah, I see a lot of transformation in the resume. And yeah, you need to actually work hard. You need to participate. You need to work. You need to get those experiences so that you can put in front of the recruiters what they're actually looking for.
That's actually a very interesting question because resume is more like a journey, right? I mean, you start from your first resume that you ever draft and to the final one that actually lands you 6 PPOs. So yeah, just tell us about what your first resume looked like as compared to the last one, and what are the changes and what is, so to say, the mindset that you sort of created for yourself to actually build that resume that got you 6 PPOs.
When I talk about resumes and the transformation that has happened, resume consists of several sections. There are some sections which are not in control, which you cannot change. You cannot go back and change your 10th grades or 12th grades, but there are certain things which you can change, be it co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, your achievements. You can highlight those set of points. So you have to earn those points. And coming from an engineering school where a lot of you don't do a lot of things like maybe not, you are not involved in debates and all, so you might not be very you might not have those extra points. But coming to a B school, people might look for certain activities when you join their company, and there plays these platforms which offers a platform for participating in this competition actually helps you in building your set of experiences that you are going to put on your CV. So these experiences, these competitions are something which are a great add-on on your CV, which helps you land up a PPI or a PPO.
Perfect. That's actually a very important question because most of us over here, in fact, all of us over here are incoming MBA students, right? And coming from different backgrounds as well. So becomes very important to understand the value of these extracurricular activities, these competitions. So let's go back into your first semester of your MBA, and how did that sort of work? In terms of landing, your first. Perhaps your first college society that you got into, or the first competition that you participated in. What was that mindset of a student, and what was the outcome? Was it a good challenge to take up, or was it something that you were sort of unwary about and then eventually figured out?
So my journey has been slightly different. My first competition was not in a B school or any school. My first competition started while I was working. So I was working with Tata Group, in Tata Motors specifically. And you must be knowing the TAS program that the person talked about in a few panel back. So they have a TAS program, and TAS program is open not only for the B school students, it's also open for their in-house employees. And that was my first competition, and it was formally launched for the first time on the Dare to Compete platform. Now it's Unstop, and that was my first competition I landed up. And I'll tell you a good amount of benefit I got. So I was the person who knew the platform before entering the B school. I know what all sort of competitions come into that, how to tackle those, because I made through the national of that TAS in-house process. So I had a good amount of information about how to build up your resume in a way what actually people are looking for. And eventually, I've seen in multiple interviews I went through during my summer placement, people actually talk about, okay, what is this TIC? Where did you get this from? Because in summers, you don't have a lot of things to show up on your CV. Whatever you have done in the past is something that you can show. So that actually helps you to talk about. That actually gives you a talking point in the CV during the interview that you're going to talk about. So that's actually a plus point that you get when you actually enter into this era of competitions and case studies.
It's quite interesting how literally you dared to compete and eventually you became unstoppable, right? I think that's the idea behind it. And one other sort of issue, problem, a lot of apprehension around was the COVID period, right? Everybody's gone through the COVID period. Everybody was studying during the COVID period. So how do you relate to your online classes during COVID and versus, the interview preparation part and how you actually landed these PPOs, PPIs? What was the mindset of a student who had to study through a COVID period with literally zero peer-to-peer interaction? How did that play an important role as far as your resume was concerned? Because everybody over here would have studied, something during the COVID period, but then that eventually needs to be put into black and white on a piece of paper, on a sheet of paper. So how has your journey through that been?
COVID, obviously, it was a challenge, and it was the biggest deciding factor whether I would want to join a B school in 21 because the COVID just started to move out, but the classes started in the online mode, and the screen time for most of us was at an all-time high, going up to 10 hours because 8 hours of classes was happening. And that's when you realize that somehow you have to bank this opportunity, what you are losing on actually because of COVID, because you can't go to campus. You have to sit at your home, facing the screen, meeting people online. So what I started doing during the COVID, which actually helped me, since Unstop is an online platform which gives you opportunity to participate in so many competitions, you start hunting out, okay, what will look good on my CV? Because, and this is time when you just join the B school, which is in the month of July, August, and by October or September, you have your summer placement. So you have good 2-3 months to build on your CV, to participate in competition and show recruiters what actually you have done and what actually you are capable of. So during COVID, I started interacting to people whom I find, okay, I can partner, I can make team with this one, and actually it can help me get into this competition, get a good CV point for me in the resume. So that's how I banked upon, because when you are on screen, there is very limited interaction that's going to happen. But obviously you can work on common presentation, you can work on common case studies, and utilize that time in actually converting it into an opportunity.
That's actually a very interesting point, because this is what brings me to the next question. Now, everybody here, management, the first definition of management is essentially management is an art, not science, or partly science, right? And the second definition is that it's the art of getting things done through people, right? And these competitions really teach you that. They give you an experience of exactly that, because you are with people, amongst people, in a team, and you have to get the job done. How did you find the right people for your team for these kind of competition, and how important was participating in these kind of competitions as far as a recruiter is concerned? What does a recruiter look at in these competitions?
See, before finding the right people, it's very important that you introspect in yourself and find out what are the gaps in you. I knew, coming from an engineering background with experience in strategy and sales, I knew what I am capable of, and I also tried to find what I am not capable of. I knew I am not very good with finance. I knew I'm not very good with data crunching. So when I am actually looking to form a team, I would look for someone coming from a finance background, maybe a BCom student, maybe an econ grad. So I would look for those set of people. And if I'm looking for someone with good data crunching skills, I will look for, okay, there are several people who has background in ZS, EXL, companies like that, which involves a lot of data crunching and Excel usage. So when you're forming a team, this is very important that you try to find what I can't do, so that you look for those person what they are capable of actually, and they'll be contributing some value when you are actually participating in certain set of competition. And eventually everything puts up like a story. Everything has to be a part of a story that you complete. You start from a place and you end it, and it should look like, okay, you are completing the story, and each person of your team should be a part of that story. And that's how you actually build upon or find the right members for your team for any competition you are participating in.
But then how do these competitions, you obviously have to write about them on your resume, but then what kind of follow-up questions do HRs and recruiters have on these kind of competitions? Because we really have to go in reverse order to understand what would the recruiter really asked me about a particular competition. So just to touch upon that.
See, we had a panel from FMCG, FMCD as well as Genman, and a lot of them talked about while they are recruiting, there are a couple of things they are looking for. They are looking for two set of things. One is strategy, one is implementation. And when you participate in these sort of competition, you strategize on building your solution. And companies actually expect you that if this idea is converted, how are you going to implement and execute this? So this is the basic question that comes to your interview when you're actually facing a recruiter. Okay, what did you did in this competition? How did you come up with this idea? And why do you think this is the most feasible idea? And how do you are going to implement is looking from different point of views. Maybe from strategy, maybe from financial. Does it make sense? Is it a feasible proposition? So these are several set of points actually recruiter look for when they're actually evaluating on those set of competitions which you have actually been part of.
Very well said. I think this is a very important point, and you guys should be making note of what he's just mentioned. Another problem that a lot of people have been facing is that students these days make their resumes right before their summer internship. Right, that is a big problem. जब तक हमें वो पता नहीं चलेगा, till the time we don't get that template, till the time we don't actually are not forced to make a resume, we don't really make a resume, right? And that's about 90% of the people. So is that a problem? Second question and follow-up question to that is, how do we get over that mindset that it's a last minute kind of a thing that we need to do? Should we be preparing it from day one?
Okay, starting with the first question, absolutely correct. Most of us start building on their resumes in the B school specifically just before you are going to enter into the summer placement arena. And I would suggest that's not the right way, because maybe someone is a fresher and not having any work or experience at a company through internship or anything, and it's very difficult to fill those 43 lines of CV. So there are more than 40 lines which you have to fill and show it to a recruiter that, okay, I can come to your company and bring these capabilities with me. That's a very valid point that there is very less time from maybe July to September or October what you have, and you have ample opportunities. You can start getting a POR that will add to your CV. You can start getting into live projects. You can start getting into case competitions. That would definitely add a few points to your CV and help actually show what you are actually capable of before you sit in for your summer placement during your MBA.
Well, that explains a lot. Bringing us to the last two questions of this panel. What are the two things that one should avoid on a resume?
So first thing is, don't put things just for the sake of putting, which does not interest you. And second, I would say, in resume, what you essentially need to do is create a balance. And something that you need to avoid is, don't make your resume heavy on one section. For example, if you have multiple PORs during your undergraduate, don't make it very heavy on the PORs. Don't make it very heavy on extracurriculars if you have too many. Just create a balance in the CV. There are several sections in the resume, and you need to create a balance, because if a recruiter comes to you, he or she is not looking that you can excel at one thing and you lack in the other. So you have to create a balance, and I would suggest this is something which one should actually avoid when they are making a resume.
Please make a note of that. Yeah, very important. And also, please don't add your declaration, right? The above mentioned information is true and best to my knowledge. Understood. It's you who's making the resume. One last question. What is that X factor that you mentioned on your resume that got you 6 PPS, PPOs? This is one question that everybody has asked me to ask you. What is the secret mantra?
So it's a vicious circle which I can see. You won a case competition, you participate, you put it on your CV, and then again you are going to be judged or scrutinized on the basis of what you have actually done. So it's a circle that makes you. I'll tell you, in most of my interviews in which I have appeared, I have been talked about a lot, because when you participate in so many competitions, you get a lot of brands added to your CV. For example, I participated in Microsoft, Airtel, Publicis. So they keep on asking you, how do you understand understand what's the problem because they are completely different structures of a corporate. So how do you try to understand what's their core problem that they are offering to you is, and how do you actually solve it? And when there are so many competitions, so many different corporates are there, and your interview, I'll say, it will revolve around brands only. Okay, what was the major problem you faced when you were solving the problem for Airtel ads? What was the major problem which you faced when you were solving a problem for Microsoft? So a lot of emphasis is actually paid during interview on these brands, because most of the company actually wants to understand how you actually deep dived into the problem and how you narrowed the whole problem into one solution, offered it to the company, which actually helped them, and they also thought, okay, this is a feasible solution, and let him get through multiple other several rounds for the company.
Okay, that was actually quite a lot. That wasn't just one mantra. I think that was a set of mantras that we will have to keep in mind. Saurav, it was lovely chatting with you on a very important topic. This was definitely the last panel, but I wish you all the very best for your future. And he will be available after this session. I would really want you to talk to him at a personal level, get to know him, interact with him, talk about your personal problems that you might be facing with your resume. This was our time on the stage. Thank you, everybody. Can we have a round of applause for Unstop? And I really hope that all of you, each and every one of you, dare to compete and are unstoppable in whatever you do. Thank you, Saurav. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Daksh.
A big round of applause for our very last panel of the day. Thank you so much, Saurav. Thank you so much, Daksh. That was such a fascinating conversation, and I think the oi really worked also to keep us all engaged right towards the end. And I have a final request for all of you. It has been so much information, so many insights in all these conversations today. Please do post on social media about whatever learnings, whatever insights that you've had from today. I'm sure there are plenty of them, and please tag Unstop as well. It would be a huge encouragement for all of us that, you've really taken away a lot from, I think that's my cue to leave, and cue for all of you to have lunch. Please enjoy, and thank you so much for being a wonderful audience today. Thank you.